pulling up the rookie guide myself here. So
I like it. I'm actually doing a mock NFL draft now, and I got to actually use your draft guide to help me make a pick for the Vikings. So here we are.
I'm glad it's helpful.
Football garbage times, right?
Yep.
Sweet.
I gave the Ravens Cam Akers, and I was like,
You sick man.
I'm just a fantasy person.
You sicken me.
Sick in the head.
And welcome to Beerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host at Hot BFF with 2 P's, and I have not left my house in 9 days. I'm going a little stir crazy. I'm joined by Dan Thury at Thury BFF. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing great. As you guys can tell, the mic situation has been put on hiatus. I'm using a gaming headset, and I can use my hands more, and it feels really weird. Probably to hold my beer.
He doesn't know what to do with his hands. He's just going to do weird things with them. They're in his lap, though. You should question that. We are joined. Very excited about this one. It has been way too long. At the FF_educator, Matt the Sawmill Hicks. Matt, welcome back.
Gentlemen, it has indeed been too long. What's up with the nickname? This is new to me.
I was decided that when we found out we were having you on, I was just going to start calling you something random and see if you rolled with it.
I like it. No, it's fine. I just was hoping you give me a little bit of a backstory.
It's because you're sawing through all that rookie study, because we're definitely not this year. You're sawing through it. You've done good for yourself. Why don't you tell the people what you've been up to in addition to the Fanalist Pod?
Absolutely, dude. Well, I mean, the full focus right now is on my work at dynastydraftroom.com. We have the podcast, the Dynasty Draft Room, where we're going full on. I mean, we are a draft and dynasty podcast 365 all year round. So this is really what we love doing. But right now things are real wild. We're doing about 7 episodes a week. That's 2 full episodes.
Jesus.
I'm on there. I'm doing a draft episode every week with Zach Patraw, a dynasty episode with Eric, and that's year round. But now we're doing a special series here with John Lobb, the Gridiron Scholar, and we're doing a fantasy football profile episode. So quick 10-minute evergreen content on this rookie class. There'll be about 40 of them when we're all said and done. But there's 5 a week coming out now, and we are just cranking out the draft material. We just finished up the draft guide, which is out now. 91 full player profiles. You can get that dynastydraftroom.com. If you think I'm making any sense when I'm talking about guys today, head on over to dynastydraftroom.com. Check out the guide, because that has been hours and hours and hours worth of work. So, and I think it came out pretty nice, if I say so myself. So,
as someone who is looking at it, I made the purchase, guys. It is totally worth the purchase. These guys put in hours upon hours of work. They're fucking crazy. They're Terminators. I don't even know if they're human beings. We should probably check that. Make sure the batteries are still in check there. It looks fantastic, though, man. You guys did a great job on this.
I mean,
thanks, man. Mark Mathick, by the way, on the graphics. Oh my gosh, my dude Mark, just ridiculous graphics. He made it actually physically look good, which is so fantastic. Much better than I could have ever done.
The rookie guide, I will say, it looks super sharp. Like the pictures, like everything, it flows perfectly. You can read from top to bottom without any real questions. Everything makes sense. It has everything you need in it. From the box scores that you would see on like collegesportsreference.com. It has all their information. It gives you little, tidbits, not too much to get you lost. It looks great, man. It does.
I appreciate it, dude. I really do.
Matt would have been sitting there with like a version of the print shop from 2004 trying to figure out how to put this thing together. But
the original, my original mock-up was on Microsoft Paint.
Oh, God.
It's real weird. Joe Burrow just looks like a yellow and purple blob. I can tell you from conversations on Twitter that Matt does know what he's talking about because he's mostly agreed with me. So
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
He's done a lot more study than we have this year, though. We've been doing our homework, but he has taken it to the next level. It's been real impressive to watch him grow in the community and with what he's been doing. So be sure to check him out and show him some love. I had something else I was going to say that was nice to you too, and I don't remember what it is. So we'll come back to that.
My appearance, my alcohol choice. I mean, what do you want to go with? We could do any of it.
Viewing beer field.
Instead, we're going to go this route.
That was beautiful.
Dan, tell the people what you're drinking.
I'm drinking new to the town of Springfield. This is Dovetail Brewery. They're out of Chicago. One of the 5,000 breweries that are up there. They are known to making European style beers, generally in that lager range, everywhere, from dark to light, the medium, Hefeweizens and stuff like that. I am drinking their Vienna style lager. Think of, if you don't know what a Vienna style lager is, it's basically a Marzen Oktoberfest, so a darker amber, more colored beer, malt forward. Yeah. It'll vary with sweetness and richness based on the the ingredients and the barley and stuff.
Yeah, Vienna malt tends to be a lot sweeter. Definitely really malt forward. So German style.
It is. It's good so far.
Yeah, I love Vienna. This is one of my favorites. I am drinking Odin Quadruple from Abandoned Building Brewery. This is one of the beers that was definitely not sent to us.
Yes, it was not. It is not sitting in my fridge at this moment because Clinton did not send it to us.
Right. So
Clint.
I've never heard of that brewery. Not familiar with it. Never heard of Clint either.
What is Clint?
What is a Clint?
What is a Clint?
All right.
It's a philosophical question.
Yeah, right.
Matt, what are you drinking?
Well, I mean, you gentlemen know I'm more of a whiskey man myself. So the two-part shout out here. I have the Old Smoky Tennessee whiskey. University of Tennessee guy, so got to represent East Tennessee, and also drinking out of the Knox Whiskey Works glass right here, a local distillery in Knoxville. Big fan of it. If you're ever in there, you could do a super cheap tour. It's like $10. And those dudes get you absolutely loaded up for $10. Let me tell you, I didn't walk out of there. I stumbled out of there.
We've been there.
Sounds like a good afternoon to me.
Yeah.
All right. So we're not going to do a shit scene on Twitter because there's a ton of news. It's like free agency part 2. And we really want to get into this roundtable discussion with Matt. Dan and I each put together 6 questions for him. So I don't know if he looked at the script since the first time he looked at it, but it has grown. So,
yes, it has.
We're going to go ahead and get into the news.
News.
All right, obviously not all of this will require discussion because this is when you start to sign backups, death pieces, all of that fun stuff. So we'll stop where it requires discussion. We won't where it won't. The Bears have re-signed quarterback Tyler Brady to be their backup. That doesn't require any discussion. The Vikings, this could, maybe, probably not. The Vikings signed wide receiver Tajay Sharp to a 1-year deal worth $1 million roughly. They are super thin at wide receiver.
He'll slot it as the number 2 for the time being.
Lightly penciled?
Yeah. They'll use pencil so they can erase later.
It'll at least be probably the 3, though, I'd imagine.
I mean, you still got BC Johnston. You'll get back Chad Beebe.
Don't you dare forget about Dylan Mitchell.
Dylan Mitchell.
I will never forget about Dylan Mitchell.
Thank you.
In Auto Oregon, super. Has he at least put on weight? I'd say weight, but some muscle.
I have no idea, to be honest. He's living on the practice squad, but I love that man. I love that man.
Hey, sure. It happened to Alan Lazard. It could happen to Dylan Mitchell.
Fair.
The Eagles signed cornerback Nick. Oh, by the way, Tajay Sharp. Basically, the point of that was that if your rosters aren't locked, then go ahead and make the waiver claim just because. The Eagles signed cornerback Nickel Roby Coleman to join Darius Slay in their revamped secondary. So typically we don't talk defense here. This is worth noting. They now have two pretty decent cover corners back there. So keep an eye on that. Despite being 5'8", Roby Coleman's actually pretty good. Diana Rossini of ESPN reported the NFL GMs are in favor of the 2020 NFL draft being postponed. However, Roger Goodell planned to keep it right where it's at on April 23rd. Rumor has it this is so he can go 1 year without actually getting booed.
I like Adam Schefter's, I guess, plan to do the draft this year. Just do one round each day for 7 days.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Live stream it on Twitter.
I haven't decided if I like it yet. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it because day 3 is like actually my favorite day because there's just so much happening and it's so quick that I don't know. Spreading it out might water it down a little bit.
That's fair.
I got an idea. Why don't they just use MFL? Just my fantasy league, slow draft it.
Oh no.
Oh no. You know what? MFL would still charge them the $140 though. They'd be like, yeah, you're still paying that.
They would. The Jaguars signed Tyler Eifert, formerly of the Bengals, to a 2-year deal. The Bengals got the most out of Eifert by limiting his snap count. So this doesn't kill the development of Josh Oliver, but it does kind of put it on hold, which makes me sad.
I tweeted that out yesterday, and I saw there was a lot of Josh Oliver fans out there with me, so I appreciate you, Twitter. I see you.
Yep. Josh Oliver and Kahale Waring were two guys we were really on last year as later round tight end picks that had the chance to be year 2, year 3 breakouts.
Yeah.
All right, good talk. The Jets signed wide receiver Rashad Perriman, formerly of the Bucs, to a 1-year deal. So Perriman replaces the departed Robbie Anderson. We'll get to that in a minute. He's got to be the wide receiver 1 there right now, right? At least until they draft somebody. I mean, they don't.
Well,
it's not Jamison Crowder. Well, no, I do believe in Jamison Crowder, but Jamison Crowder's not a 1.
Dude, he averaged like 3.2 yards a reception last year. Something stupid. Like that's a fake stat, but something stupid like that. Dude, I love this. I love Rashard Perriman. I'm a Rashard Perriman truther. I don't like. It's exciting because he's fantasy relevant now. I wouldn't bank on him for anything special, but maybe he'll be a wide receiver 3.
Take a flyer.
Take a flyer.
They got to draft somebody. They got to.
Former first-round pick, Rashard Perriman.
Yep.
What other picks this year?
They should just.
I got to assume they're going to address wide receiver position.
I mean, there's a lot of depth at wide receiver too. So
they have 2 second-round picks. They pick at the top of the second round. So I think that's probably where they address the wide receiver position. A lot of people want them to go wide receiver at 11, but if there's if one of the big 4 offensive tackles are on the board, there's no way to pass.
Well, they have to.
No, there's enough depth in the wide receiver class anyway to where you can get something good with that first second round pick.
You'll get a stud at the top of the second round. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of studs, the Packers signed Devin Funchess.
Oh, jeez. Oh, worst transition ever.
Not studs. Yeah, no, that was the worst transition ever. I don't think
Packers
he's a threat.
signed a tree.
Catches like one, too. This is not a threat to Lazard or Kumaro, I think is what I tweeted out when I saw this.
It's not a threat to anything. He might as well just play tight end.
I don't know.
Which would hurt because I like Chase Grimberger too much.
Might injure boy ESB.
Yeah.
Jeez. Oh. Pour one out.
Yeah, right?
Right. The Redskins signed tight end Richard Rodgers. Pour one out.
Okay.
No? Okay.
Yeah, forget it.
The Panthers signed Robbie Anderson to a 2-year, $20 million contract. They also have released Cam Newton. So Robbie Anderson comes in to be the wide receiver 2 on a conservative, probably Teddy Bridgewater, but maybe PJ Walker offense. I don't want any part of anything that isn't Christian McCaffrey or DJ Moore here right now.
I'm not getting excited about the Panthers offense, but if I own Robbie Anderson, and this is an unpopular opinion I've noticed, but if I own Robbie Anderson, this is still better than what you had last year.
I'm listening. I own Robbie Anderson. And I was about to ship him out for a 4th-round pick and a roll of Charmin. So
wait, what? You got him for cheap?
I own Robbie Anderson. I was about to ship him out for a 4th-round pick and a roll of Charmin, but I knew that was too low.
Here's the thing, though. Like, it can't get worse than being in an Adam Gase offense. Bridgewater might not push the ball down the field, but he's at least accurate. Like, he can get the ball in his hands. I'm not getting, like, hype about Robbie Anderson, but it's not worse.
I mean, like, this is a team that ran the most plays per minute last year, so it's not like they can't be up-tempo and want to push the ball. I mean, they have 3 legitimate – I won't say legitimate, but you have 3 really good receivers, at least good receivers, outside of having a really good running back who catch on the backfield and a highly athletic tight end in Ian Thomas. I mean, we haven't really seen Teddy unleashed. I mean, he has he's finally 3 years removed from his leg injury.
You could mention highest tempo and everything, but new offense.
Well, no,
yeah, it's a Joe Brady offense, though.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not saying
Joe Brady for LSU.
Yeah,
it's not the same, but I'm just saying that.
No, it's still going to be up tempo.
Yeah, that's
the whole new offense for everybody. So I won't say that it will hit the reset market for everybody. Like CMC and more, I agree with you 1,000% of the guys that you want to own. It just depends who's going to be where, like who's going to line up where. Are we going to see
Anderson's not dead? Samuel's dead, I think, is more so what I was getting at.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. And I would keep in mind, too, that like part of this, yes, is that Matt Rule, I'm sure, feels like Robbie Anderson is going to fit his team. But like Matt Rule is also getting the locker room behind him from a very smart perspective, right? He brought in Robbie Anderson, who he had it with him at Temple. He brought in PJ Walker. If you're a new coach, who PJ Walker played with him at Temple as well, if you're a new coach, you're going to bring in your guys. Don't be surprised if he doesn't draft a Baylor guy or two, especially as it gets later on. Like JaMychal Hasty would really complement CMC. And so just like if you're a new coach, you're going to bring in guys that know your system and can help kind of build that culture from the locker room. Like, you want those guys to have that buy-in and get everybody else to buy in. So
they're going to draft
it's a good NFL move. I don't know if it's a good fantasy move.
So what you're saying is they're going to draft Denzel Mims.
That's what I just said.
See Twitter.
They're going to draft Denzel Mims just to piss everybody off.
They're going to be the new Cardinals. They're just going to run an air raid offense. You're gonna see PJ Walker or Teddy.
PJ Walker's gonna
try to support 3 receivers. It's gonna be great.
PJ Walker's gonna be could be fun.
Oh man.
They released Cam Newton in the other part of that news. So
now that is worth pouring one out.
Yeah,
I love Cam Newton.
He had a good run. We'll see where he lands. It'll undoubtedly be somewhere, but we'll see where. So
don't give up on him. I would, if you have the ability and you want to buy him cheap right now, don't give up on Cam.
I'm not giving up on Cam. I wish the Bears had just kept that 4th rounder inside Cam instead of Foles.
Ooh, yeah, that would have been nice.
Yep.
Maybe they'll sign him anyways and just create competition there.
Yeah, to like a Brian Hoyer like deal. More on that later. The Redskins have signed former Bucs running back Peyton Barber to a 2-year, $3 million contract.
He's not a threat to Darius Geis, at least.
Yep,
disgusting.
Nightmare's over for Ronald Jones Truthers.
I think this might say something about Bryce Love. I'm worried about him.
Well, they brought in J.D. McKissick too, right?
Yeah,
maybe
McKissick
pass catching back too.
McKissick. Well, and it's not like they gave either of these guys a boatload of money to where they have to keep him around. I don't think Peyton Barber would worry me because he's a different type of back than Bryce Love. McKissick's the one that would scare me there.
Yeah.
So
I don't like it. I mean, none of it's good.
We'll see.
It's still wide. The team's still not going to produce a lot of points.
I mean, this backfield's cursed.
Yeah,
it's true.
I mean, yeah, they haven't had a good running back since Alfred Morris, I'm pretty sure. Well, Chris Thompson that 1 year. But anyway.
Chris Thompson can be serviceable, PPR. Not anymore.
When he's healthy, which is never.
Big win, yeah.
Yep. Travis Benjamin signed by the 49ers to a 1-year deal. Nothing more to say there. Philip Dorsett signed by the Seahawks to a 1-year deal. Also, nothing more to say there. The Chiefs signed Jordan Ta'amu, formerly of the St. Louis Battlehawks, to a 1-year deal. He's going to compete with Chad Henne and Kyle Shermer to back up Mahomes. So you could very easily win that job. That's just a thing to know. And a shout out to my guy as a Battlehawks season ticket holder. Good luck, Jordan.
If I was Chad Henne, I'd just retire now. Just forget about it. It's over. You had a good run.
Yeah.
All right. St. Louis Battlehawks legend Jordan Tiamu is going to take over the league.
Yes.
I'm glad he's getting a shot, too, because this is a guy that not only proved he had the legs and the arm about him and the sense about him, he led the XFL with a 72% completion rate, but look at what he supported in college. You had Dawson Knox, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, DeMarcus Lodge, who was almost borderline NFL worthy. He supported a lot of players at Ole Miss. So
he made that Ole Miss offense relevant in the SEC West, and that's not easy to do. So yeah, I mean Tiamu was a great college quarterback, and you saw Ole Miss fell right off the cliff there. They had two quarterbacks in Matt Corral, and I'm forgetting the second guy's name, who they really expected to jump in there and take right over, and they weren't able to.
No,
that offense
that team was bad last year.
They had such a good run with Chad Kelly and Jordan Tiamu there, too, for a little bit. That's just a huge drop off.
Yeah, with Jordan Tiamu specifically, yeah.
Following up Chad Kelly, too, who was also
right.
good.
Yeah, mostly Tiamu, though. Yeah,
right. Also Chad Kelly. I mean, it was both of them.
He played there, yeah.
So what you're saying is that there's going to be a quarterback competition with the Chiefs, right?
Behind
Mahomes.
Sure. No, I think Tiamu can win that job.
Oh, yeah, probably.
And then he'll get paid way too much money someplace. Cowboys center Travis Frederick has announced his retirement. So pour one out for the homie. He was good.
Yeah, that's pour one out.
Yep. Yeah. The Giants signed running back Deion Lewis to a 1-year deal. The Patriots released kicker Steven Gostkowski. He shall not be missed. The Giants re-signed wide receiver Corey Coleman to a 1-year deal. So a lot of washouts for the Giants there. That's how you should rebuild.
That's a special team signing. Don't worry about it for fantasy.
Yeah, for either of those. The Redskins acquired quarterback Kyle Allen from the Panthers for a 5th-round pick. He'll be starting before the end of the year.
Nice.
I mean, Rivera brought in his guy.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Give me Cole McDonald in the 5th round. Use that pick and get Cole McDonald and have yourself a good time.
Anthony Gordon, anybody.
Anthony Gordon's going day 2, but that's a different argument.
Well, I've got Anthony Gordon out of McDonald, so I'm with you. I'm with you. Anyway, PJ Walker, formerly the XFL's Houston Roughnecks, and in that same tier, maybe a tier above what Jordan Tiamu was. They were clearly the best quarterbacks in the XFL. But Panthers signed PJ Walker, and if you saw him in the XFL, he is electric. He's got escapability. He's got wheels. He's got an arm. He can make throws on the run. And he is really going to push Teddy Bridgewater here. I don't know that he beats him out, but it's definitely a good arm to have in camp, especially when you're trying to find something at the quarterback position if you're Carolina. So, yeah, I would also probably, in Superflex, if you got the roster position, you're rebuilding or whatever, it's worth a stash. Hell, if your rosters are locked, it might even be worth a draft pick, because I guarantee he's not on a roster somewhere.
Right. I mean, and keep in mind, dude, you got a head coach and you got an offensive coordinator that are coming right out of college, dude. They're going to be willing to be creative with these athletic guys. So
they will be.
He could be used.
Another former first-round pick, Matt. Do you want to sing this guy's praises? The Falcons signed wide receiver Laquan Treadwell to go right along with that offense full of first-round picks.
That's a really good argument. Would you rather have Brashard Perriman or Laquan Treadwell? I think, Perriman's career projection is looking a lot better still.
I think it is too. But the Falcons are just trying to hoard former first-rounders, Laquan Treadwell included. Doesn't matter if they're good or bad. We're just trying to hoard them.
You're supposed to get the first rounds before you make the picks. I think they're getting backwards.
They're doing it wrong.
The Patriots have signed quarterback Brian Hoyer, who, according to his agent, will be given the chance to win the starting job. His salary is $1 million with $2 million in incentives, so probably not. But there it is.
The tank for Trevor.
If Brian Hoyer is the starter, I promise you guys another 45-minute discussion on why Brian Hoyer is going to be good.
As long as it's our second episode on a back-to-back, and we're about 3 beers in already.
I forgot that. Why? I had to show your message in the chat, Dan. Are you going back and forth with Colton about something?
No,
Did
no,
you
no, he's
swear?
fine.
You said. Okay.
What? No, it's all good.
Was there a question? There was a
I-
question.
I mean, I was trying to gauge more. I was trying to get more information out of it before I was to bring it up. So,
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
I guess no.
Production.
I guess I
meeting.
mean,
Are you gonna
what?
ask it, or are we just gonna go?
no. We can go. We can go.
Oh, that meant me go.
I'll ask the question. We'll see. We got Matt here. So his question is,
Welcome to an
You got
on-air
offered-
production meeting, Matt.
yeah, right. He got offered 2 first-round picks, the 105, 107 for Aaron Jones and Keenan Allen, or for Aaron Jones or Keenan Allen.
Oh, I was
Oh.
like, and
Keenan
Keenan Allen?
I would take it for Keenan Allen. I didn't see the or. I thought it said and.
He has the picks?
No, he has Jones or Allen.
Yeah, I would get rid of Keenan Allen for
Yep.
the picks.
Get rid of him.
Yeah, I'd get rid of Keenan Allen for the picks. Not
You-
Aaron Jones.
Take 2 shots at wide receiver there. You're gonna
Yeah.
hit on 1.
Keenan Allen's on a downhill slope, man.
Yep. Get
I
it.
thought it said and. That's why I thought the question was like, all right, this
Uh,
seemed easy enough.
No, and an or,
That was
man.
my
If
bad.
it's or Keenan Allen all day, get rid of that. See
Yeah.
ya.
Yeah. Just do that.
Don't let the door hit you with, in the
Yeah.
ass.
You can take 2 receivers there if you really wanted to.
You could.
Yeah.
And
You can get a good running back at 105 if you need it. If it's super flex, even freaking better.
yeah, Keyshawn Vaughn.
You can wait. You don't got to get him at 105. I love Keyshawn Vaughn.
He's
but
getting
you
a
don't
lot of
gotta get him
hype.
that high.
A lot of hype. Depends too.
It
Super
depends on
flex
his
or
draft
not.
capital. That's his big dependency. Is his
Yeah.
draft capital.
Yeah.
He'll probably go high in day 3, but there's nothing wrong with that with this class.
Nope.
No.
The Broncos, speaking of people that we should do a 45-minute segment on, have signed Nick Vannett to a 2-year contract. He's going to beat out Noah Fant.
You shut your mouth.
No, he's not. I love Noah Fant. I also love Nick Vannett a lot, but I love Noah Fant.
He has a man crush on
There
Nick
ain't no
Vannett.
way. No, Nick
Hey, listen, you can have 2 tight ends in today's NFL, man.
Nick
works.
Vannett was very, very much just, I don't know, screw it. I guess he could be good for 1 episode. Didn't work.
Didn't work.
The Raiders signed Nelson Aguilar to a 1-year deal, or tried to. He dropped the pin when he was signing the contract.
Ooh.
He's worth nothing there. The Saints signed Emmanuel Sanders to a 2-year contract worth $16 million. How do you guys feel about this? Because Manny Sanders is relatively
love
productive.
Fantastic
Love
move.
it. Love it.
I do too. I think it fits that offense. It's a good compliment to Michael Thomas too.
It's absolutely perfect. And Manny Sanders produces every single time people think he's done. He produces.
He does.
Just go and get him.
He absolutely
What does it do to Michael Thomas, though? You guys, do you think? I mean, there's like in an offense that wants to be more run. I won't say wants to be more run heavy, but an offense that has shown for the last 2 years that with a good defense and when they're obviously up in games, they have no problem taking the ball out of Drew Brees' hands and letting the running backs go to work. So do you think that this could hurt Michael Thomas in any sort of way?
Kind of, sort of, not really, I guess.
I don't think
I think
so, no.
it probably hurts Jared Cook and Ted Ginn and Traquan Smith more in the
Oh yeah, for
they pull
sure.
it in that
For
way.
sure.
I mean, they were missing some of the dynamic of that running game last year without Mark Ingram, and I think Alvin Kamara showed it a little bit in his efficiency. But also, Drew Brees took himself out of the game for, 6 weeks with the thumb or whatever it was. So, and I don't think that the Saints have the defense to necessarily be locked down at the moment. So no, I'm not worried about Michael Thomas.
Yep, 100%.
Speaking of people that every time you think they're done, they produce. The Panthers have signed tight end Seth DeValve.
Jeez.
He's-
Pass. Next.
It's Ian Thomas.
You're okay, Ian Thomas. You're okay.
The Vikings signed Dan Bailey to a 3-year, $10 million deal. So my question for you, Dan, is what does that do to Dalvin Cook's goal line carries with Dan Bailey back in the mix?
I expect at least one kicker sweep every 6 weeks.
There's a Dan Bailey on an end around joke that's been running with this podcast for 3 years, and there's no reason for it. We just thought it would be hilarious and rolled with it.
That was when the Cowboys had I think 4 straight first goal, and the ball never went to Zeke. So the joke was, here comes Dan Bailey.
Here comes Dan Bailey on an end around. That's what it was. We were at the bar because they kept trying to give it to Tavon Austin, I think.
Something like that.
Something dumb. The Broncos signed running back Melvin Gordon. Discuss.
I like it.
Great discuss. What does it do to Philip Lindsay? What does it do to Royce Freeman?
All right, fine. We'll get
Can we get the analysts to analyze a little bit?
Yeah, maybe. I think you'll see a split work with Philip Lindsay. I think this kills Royce Freeman, and you have to kind of hope that he either gets cut or traded, and will land somewhere that he can at least compete for starting reps. But I think Royce is done.
Yeah, Freeman was never a good fit in Denver. The coaching staffs never came around to him. It just didn't work out. I don't know if that's a Freeman problem or a Denver problem. I'd be surprised if he's not on a different team by the end of the draft weekend. Whether he gets moved for like a 5th rounder or 6th rounder or something like that.
I would like to see him in Atlanta with Gurley only on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, I mean, Freeman's not useless. Like, I could see a team wanting him, give him a shot. I mean, in today's NFL, you need 2, 3, 4 running backs deep in case you get hurt. But I don't know he'll be in a relevant role.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Rams still have Rams still have an opening too. So
they're still opening. Like, I don't know if he'll land somewhere and make him a top 24 running back in terms of opportunity. But it's not like he's a bad player. He just got out, just like Matt said, he was in the wrong system. He had two coaching staffs and never really gave him enough work.
And Philip Lindsay is just overshadowed him. He's got to get out of that shadow. It's almost like Michael Turner when he was with LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah, that's fair.
Steelers signed tight end Eric Ebron to a 2-year deal. It's worth $12 million.
I'm interested. I kind of like it. I don't know. There's not much there with Pittsburgh right now. Ben Roethlisberger looks like the guy from Castaway right now.
He does.
Is apparently that's concerning to me, but I don't know. There's got to be something in Pittsburgh, right? It can't all just be Juju.
No, and you've got McDonald, who we know is good between the 20s. You could end up with an Ebron Doyle situation. We know he's a red zone threat. He's worth a flyer, and Roethlisberger's apparently throwing without pain for the first time in years, so it's a good sign for his comeback. So there's definitely opportunity there, and that was also a much better segue than the Devin Funchess one into my next news item.
It was. That was great. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
You've come so far.
I have. All in 20 minutes. All right, let's see if you guys have come very far. The Falcons signed Todd Gurley to a 1-year deal worth $5 million. Discuss.
I'm intrigued by this because I wouldn't we don't know what Todd Gurley we're gonna get. We just have to think that the knee problem was maybe overblown last year, and it just was a massive dysfunction in LA. Atlanta should have one of the best offenses in football. They play in one of the most offensive heavy divisions in football, so a lot of points should be scored. Their defense is never healthy, so opportunity should always be there. Just whether or not we get the last, 2017 and 18 Todd Gurley, or do we get last year's Todd Gurley?
Yeah, I'm all in, man. I just want to close my eyes, buy Todd Gurley. Don't pay too much, but I'm interested, dude. I think he could be a running back. I don't want to say a running back 1, but I think he could be in that 12 to 18 range. I think he's very serviceable, dude.
I think
his offensive line upgrade is ridiculous.
Well, it's not just a line upgrade, too, but there's going to be plenty of volume there. Ito Smith is the only other guy there that's received any form of NFL touches. Devonta Freeman got cut, so it is Gurley and then Ito Smith, and I don't see Ito Smith getting last year's Malcolm Brown levels of work or anything like that. So I think they're going to try to ride Gurley and see what they have.
I will say,
if they can.
Yeah, I will say just be careful buying too high before the draft because Atlanta's going to leave the draft with a running back. Now, whether that's somebody like Cam Akers or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, in round 2, that would be a red flag for Gurley, or whether it's somebody, in round 5 or 6. They're going to leave with somebody else, but let's see how much of a priority they make that.
You want to see
right.
You want to see mid to late day 3 pick, so there's no competition. I mean, it's a 1-year deal. There's probably very little future for him in Atlanta outside of them just seeing opportunity and taking it. They'll probably ride the shit out of him this season, at least up to what his knees can handle, and then just throw him away.
Yeah, this isn't an
It's the life of a
investment you're
running
making.
back.
This is a 1 year. You're on a title contender,
Yeah.
and you just for fantasy purposes, and you just need somebody to help put you over the edge. That's all this is. This is not an investment.
No. I mean, his value could skyrocket if the draft plays out with Atlanta not taking a running back till day 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, I think that they've got enough needs on the other side of the ball where that could actually be the case. So we'll have to see. Last item of note, Jerick McKinnon restructured his deal with the Niners, not just $910,000 guaranteed, so he's a cut candidate.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the questions that we want to discuss with Mr. Hicks. So the way this is going to work is Dan and I are going to follow off. Well, I'm going to hit the drop first, actually.
Pick your 6.
It's not a new one. It's a reimagined take on Pick Your 6.
I know.
Dan and I each pick 6 questions from Matt. So we're going to alternate through those questions. We're going to ask him. We're going to get his opinions. Then we'll discuss because, I'll have opinions. I know to the listeners of the show, me having an opinion is a shocker.
Right.
And Dan will have opinions. So we'll alternate, spend a couple minutes on each one. There are 12 questions, again, alternating. And Dan, you go ahead and start.
All right, so it's going to be 1 question a piece for quarterbacks, tight ends, 2 questions about running backs, receivers. All my questions are going to be based off of all the rookies here. Our initial plan was to just showcase 6 questions and then have Hopper magically pop up with 6 fun ones to kind of break up the monotony of just asking a bunch of rookie questions. So mine will be all rookie based. We'll start off with the quarterbacks. I gave Matt these questions a few days ago, so he has time to prep up and say whatever he needs to say. So the first one, Burrow and Tua are the 2 most talked about quarterbacks and, the 2 most talked about rookie quarterbacks right now. We all know our thoughts about them. Matt, you have Tua as your QB1, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I know most people view it as Burrow. Can you give our listeners who have any doubts in mind why you think Tua should go ahead of Burrow?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Dan, I want to start off by saying, I don't know how comfortable I feel giving you too much quarterback advice since I think I've already given you all of my draft picks in the Superflex Super Friends League. So,
I think I own 6 firsts this year. I already have 3 firsts next year, and I'm probably going to try to get more. My team is fucking terrible.
Me and Dan traded so much last year. I feel like we just merged teams at one point in time.
I'm just your farm system. That's fine.
You helped me get to the playoffs, and I appreciate you.
I think I have no starting quarterbacks in that league.
I have Dwayne Haskins and Josh Rosen. So
I think I have none.
1.
All right, so you might need
you have a half. You have half of a starting quarterback. You got a maybe on Haskins.
Maybe it's a big maybe.
A big maybe. So between Tua and Burrow, I will start off by saying that these are 2 very good quarterbacks. Joe Burrow is a great quarterback, but when it comes to Tua is an exceptionally talented quarterback with very high traits, very good traits that give him a really high ceiling. And at the end of the day, whenever there's a toss-up in fantasy football, you should go for ceiling because you should be playing for upside. Because it's all a risk, right? It's all a gamble, especially when you're going with rookie drafts. So you should go for the ceiling. Now, the thing about Tua, first and foremost, is this man has the best arm talent I've seen from a prospect in a long time. And arm talent is not just arm strength, although he has good arm strength. He can hit all 3 levels of the field. He can push that thing 50 yards down the field without it really looking like a lot of effort. But he has incredible touch, incredible anticipation on his ball. He leads receivers around the field with ease. This man dominated the SEC West for 2 full years, really 3 years. Now, yes, Joe Burrow did fantastic this last year as well, but Tua is a proven winner. It started with coming in back end of his freshman year in the college football championship, cold off the bench and leading Alabama through that thing. But on top of his arm strength, he has the best mechanics in the draft, really solid foundation, great release, really crisp, sharp release, really good footwork. He steps up in the pocket very well. He has a really high football IQ. He can read the entire field. Alabama often asked him to read into his third, fourth progression there, and he was able to hit those guys. High competitive toughness. He's a great decision maker. He rarely ever puts the ball in a situation where it's compromised. The injuries, you have to take into account the injuries. But what I want to point out about it is over the course of his Alabama career, 3 injuries: left ankle, right ankle, and then his hip. Those are not related injuries. He's not injuring the same thing over and over again. So as long as he's healthy from the hip, the most recent injury, which he dropped the video this week, it looked pretty good. I'm excited about Tua. I think he's got such a high ceiling. I watch this guy, I cover the SEC. I watched this kid play the last couple of years. He's just so absolutely fantastic. Joe Burrow is great, but Tua is something special to me.
I have no issue with that. I mean, I've been debating between Burrow and Tua. I have the 101 in this league that we've been talking about, and I've been debating between Burrow and Tua, kind of back and forth. And my team is so far beyond contention that I've always believed Tua had higher upside. I think his biggest question marks has always been health. And he's proven that throughout back-to-back years that he can be in high-end QB, at least with the best college football team in the nation. There's question marks about Burrow with the one-year wonder, and why couldn't he get it done in his junior year, and things like that. So I absolutely love both quarterbacks, and I think you can't do no wrong with those first 2 picks in a super flex draft.
Yeah, and I mean, it's important to consider, right? The one year wonder kind of comparison. He draws the comparison to Mitch Trubisky right now because things aren't going well. But I want to point out that Burrow was a really high recruit. He was the 8th overall dual threat recruit. He went to Ohio State. He was a 4-star, so he was really sought after high school recruit. He didn't win the job at Ohio State, and when he went to LSU, he actually did really well. The LSU offense has been notorious for being inefficient the last few years. So he actually did pretty well with them his junior year, but of course the addition of Joe Brady to the coaching staff just took that offense to the next level. So the 1-year wonder is kind of justified. It's not at the same time, but I would keep in mind the fact that he's probably going to end up in Cincinnati, and that's not an offense that I want my fantasy football players in traditionally, and it doesn't look like it's getting that much better. So I don't know. It's uninspiring.
I gotta disagree a little bit with the. I'm gonna talk. So I got to disagree a little bit with the Cincinnati take, because I get that they've kind of been a dumpster fire. You're missing AJ Green all last year. He's back. You've got a good number 2 there in Tyler Boyd. You've got a good running back in Joe Mixon. And you've actually had high offensive line draft picks the last couple of years that have just missed time because they were hurt. The Bengals offense has the potential to be a lot better than what it's shown, but that's not really what I want to base the argument on. What I want to base the argument on is this. He's a rookie. Burrow is likely going to be a rookie quarterback that's coming into the league with weapons at his disposal. And that does make a difference. Look at what Deshaun Watson was able to do with the DeAndre Hopkins. And you talk about proven winners. I want to make another comparison with Hopkins here in a minute regarding Tua. But for Burrow to come in and actually have weapons at his disposal, that does set somebody up for success, as opposed to like a Dwayne Haskins who came into Washington without really a whole lot to lean on or to help him or any real pieces around him or anything. Now, to the point with Tua, I can't disagree with anything you said. This is going to be a call your shot. How do you feel about the hip? How do you feel about where they land? I will say this with Tua, though, and this is something I want to address. You brought up a point of proven winner, and that is something that we overlooked a lot in Deshaun Watson in our year one, was the fact that the guy just knew how to win football games. He knew how to go through reads. He knew how to play. We didn't like some of what he did. There are some things that we saw in Watson that we didn't like, but I think we underestimated how much being a proven winner for multiple seasons and knowing how to win football games, even at the college level, plays, especially when you've done it for a long time. And I think that that's one thing in Tua that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, even though the stats are good, that you can't really discount, is the fact that he does know how to win football games.
Yeah, and there's not only is it the ability to win football games, but there's a competitive toughness that comes along with Tua. And there's a specific game that I want to pull from 2019. It's the LSU game. And they actually lost that game. Alabama lost that game. But Tua was coming back from an ankle injury that he suffered against Tennessee earlier in the season. And he had been out, I think, 2-3 weeks. They had been kind of sitting him to make sure he got back for the LSU game. And Tua was clearly not healthy in that game. I mean, you could see he was still limping around on the ankle. He was taking hits. LSU defenders were taking shots at him because they knew he was hurt. And it only got worse as the game went on. But he still threw for 418 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception in that loss. He kept Alabama in that game the entire time against the best defense in the country against LSU this past year. And you could tell, that this man was maybe 75% healthy, but he stood in there and he battled, and he was playing way too early because he knew that that was his team's opportunity to win that game. And he knew if they lost against LSU, they weren't going to the conference championship. And that game went all the way down to the wire. It was a huge game this season, and they were only in it because Tua kept them in it. So, yeah. I mean, it's the proven ability to win. It's the competitive toughness. I mean, this is just I want to run through a wall for this kid if I'm his teammate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. I've got one more comment on Burrow. We'll kick it over to Dan and kind of wrap up this portion of the question. So my one more comment on Burrow, and did I just hear hurricane? my one more comment on Burrow is with the LSU offense, and Matt, you hit on this, and I just wanted to not discount that as well. Joe Brady made a huge difference with that offense. That was a run-first offense where guys like, Danny Etling, we looked at him and said, okay, yeah, I kind of like what I'm seeing out of him. But you didn't really get to showcase it. And there are a bunch of wide receivers we saw there too, Malachi Dupree and a few other guys that were very, very much, okay, they could be something, but this offense just doesn't utilize and doesn't throw, and that was a knock on LSU. And Joe Brady comes in, turns that around, and really was able to get the most out of Burrow and show what he could do. And I don't think you can undersell that either. But Dan, kind of wrap us up on Burrow and Tua and take us into the next part of your question.
No, I already said my thoughts on it. We'll move on. You can't go around with other quarterback in your fantasy drafts if you're in super flex at the 101 or 102 here. So we'll move on to the quarterbacks behind them, because these guys, I feel like, don't get as much conversation. Hurts has been popping up on Twitter recently, as people believe he could be the next Konami code quarterback in the NFL in upcoming years. But let's get your guys' thoughts. Let's get Matt's thoughts on the guys behind the 1 and 2 in Herbert, Love, and Hurts.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll kind of rapid fire through these guys because I want to kind of give a little bit of an introduction to each of them.
Sure.
And of course, like we talked about earlier, all this chock full in the guide, full player breakdowns. But I'm a huge Justin Herbert fan, much more than other people. I think he has 4 years of experience at Oregon. People forget that when he started at Oregon, that team, I think, had 3 wins in the first year before he got there. And he brought them into a Pac-12 contender every single year. He's kind of crapped on for not being a winner, like we were just talking about, or a leader, but he was a huge reason that Oregon offense is even where it's at. He's got tremendous arm strength. He's got good accuracy, high football IQ. I think he can step in. He might not have as high of a ceiling as somebody like Burrow or Tua, but I think he steps in day one and can be an NFL starter. Jacob Eason is the next guy I have on my list. Huge arm, really great mechanical foundation. He's got to work on the mental side of the game, but he's got the arm and he's got the mechanics, and those are the 2 hardest things to have. So we can hammer out some of the mental stuff on the sidelines. I think he has a really, really high ceiling, especially if he ends up in an air raid spread style type offense where he can really push the ball down the field. I like Jake Fromm a lot. I don't know how high of a ceiling he will ever have for fantasy football because he's kind of I hate to call him a game manager because the Georgia offense really doesn't allow to see much more from him, but he was a game manager. Again, like great pocket awareness, good decision-making, really good accuracy in the short and midfield. But but you'd be hard pressed to find him throw the ball more than 30 yards downfield on tape. Jalen Hurts, like you mentioned, high mobility guy, really athletic, not fantastic arm strength, inconsistent accuracy at times, but he has that dynamic ability. Huge, high character guy, huge locker room presence. He's going to be a really fantastic addition to an NFL locker room. In the right system, in the right landing spot with a creative minded coach, I'm interested in fantasy football, but I'm going to hold off at least for now. And then the last guy I want to make sure I throw in there and that, is on the listener's radar is Anthony Gordon out of Washington State. Guys, let me tell you, he's my draft crush this year. I love Anthony Gordon. This guy is electric. He improvises. He only has 1 year of starting. He's a JUCO transfer, but he threw the ball 689 times for Mike Leach this year, 70% completion rate. He peppered the field, man. He really was an electric player. He has the way that the NFL is moving right now towards the Lamar Jacksons, the Pat Mahomes, these guys that can improvise with the way they throw the ball and the way that they play. Even PJ Walker to an extent, right? These guys that just find a way to fit the ball into tight spots and keep the play alive. That's Anthony Gordon. He's really, really raw. Like I said, 1 year of starting. He has a lot of work to do. He is not somebody who can come in and play right away. But this is a guy who has a high ceiling. I really like Anthony Gordon, and I think the NFL is going to like him more than people think right now.
Yeah, I can't disagree with a lot of that, except Jake Fromm. I do disagree on Jake Fromm, but anyway, I'll let you have that one.
Do you like him, or are you saying you don't like him at all?
I am not huge on him just because I did a lot. So I took a little different approach to film this year and did a lot of statistical baselining. I actually charted out at each position pretty much every draft pick over the last 10 years and looked at, what level of college productivity kind of equals success, what level of athleticism kind of equals success, and then mix the film in with it. And I've done a bit of all of that with Fromm, and while I kind of agree with the game manager statement, right? I think he's the type of guy like maybe a Case Keenum that probably isn't destined to be a high-end starter, but, could be a very serviceable backup quarterback in the NFL, eventually a bridge quarterback, and a guy that gets some chances. The three that I have right behind Burrow and Tua, and this is without having watched Eason. Eason's on my list to watch before the draft. I've not gotten to him yet. Jalen Hurts, and again, this is more of a fantasy standpoint, but we've seen the rushing quarterbacks, look at Kyler Murray, that have turned in, not quick, but good and high floor fantasy performances. And Hurts, Dan and I joke about this all the time, but, when we watched Calvin Ridley's tape, when we watched Bama in year one with Ardarius Stewart, there was a lot of screw Jalen Hurts. He can't pass. He's limiting these wide receivers. And we saw progressively through his college career, he did get better as a passer. He did improve. He is going to be kind of a project. He's probably better off sitting for a year. Like if he landed with somebody like the Colts, for example, where they've got Rivers on a 1 year deal, absolutely would not hate that. But he has shown progression as a passer throughout his college career. He's not shown anything to make me think he can't continue that progression at the NFL level. He's got the athleticism. Oklahoma put him in a position to succeed statistically with a lot of one-read throws. But, he showed some ability to keep his eyes downfield, especially when he was running. And I thought that, yes, he lost the accuracy some, but he was more accurate than he wasn't. And so he's kind of right behind them for me. We got Herbert running right behind that. I can't really disagree with anything you said. 4-year starter, decent arm strength. Loses it a bit under pressure and on the run. Reminded me a little bit. I saw a little bit of like a Rosen/Daniel Jones to that portion of it, which scares me off some. That's why I kind of docked him a little bit. Because he kind of gets happy feet, takes his legs out of it, mechanics disappear whenever that happens. That's something we saw with Rosen, which I think was ultimately his downfall. But overall, you can't discount what he was able to do in college. And then right behind that, I've got Anthony Gordon, and I agree with you 100%. Anthony Gordon's a guy that, did come in as a 1 year starter, but he came into that I'm going to throw the ball, and I'm going to throw the ball a ton Mike Leach offense, and was able to do something with it. He had the arm, has the arm talent. He's obviously got plenty of reps under his belt. He has the ability to improvise, make throws on the move, and everything. So I cannot knock Anthony Gordon at all. So behind Burrow and Tua, I've got it Hurts, Herbert, and Gordon, and I think that you're really 5 deep there. And then if I'm taking a deep cut, I thought it was a snub. I think that this guy could go 6th, 7th round, even UDFA, maybe go to the XFL and come back. But I liked what I saw out of Bryce Perkins on tape, and I won't spend a lot of time on that just because he got shafted on I feel like he got shafted on the combine invite. He's going to be robbed of a pro day, so I'm not sure what type of draft capital is going to be there. But I thought athletically, from what he was able to show when he was on with his arm, and he did lose it. He was kind of a streaky passer. But I thought he actually looked relatively decent given what I saw out of him. Eyes downfield, athletic enough to make defenders miss, streaks of pinpoint accuracy. He had a good sense for pressure and pocket awareness, could really kind of lead an offense. So he's a guy that I'm looking at that could be, if he gets drafted even on, round 6, round 7, and gets the right opportunity, a la Gardner Minshew, could have something to him.
Yeah, we have Bryce Perkins ranked as our 12th quarterback in the guide. We do consensus rankings as part of the guide. We have him as our 12th quarterback. It's higher than some other names that's probably on your radar, like Nate Stanley or Shea Patterson.
Yep.
So yeah, we have him, higher than guys that got combine invites, like James Morgan out of Florida International.
Yep.
So I absolutely think he's worth it. And if we're talking fantasy football, I mean, his athleticism takes his game to the next level.
It does. Dan, your thoughts?
Oh, you guys hit them all. I haven't done nearly as much quarterback work as the both of you guys. Definitely not as Matt here. So, a lot of fantastic information. Let's keep the show moving, though. Let's get on to the first fun question. Hopper.
All right. So, on last week's show, our first week in quarantine, we did a video game draft, Matt. So, I got to ask, you got to pick 3 video games to play indefinitely while you're in quarantine. What would your top 3 draft picks be, video game wise? We picked from a list. I'll leave it open to you.
Yeah, I just want to point out that on the show doc it says 12-pack with Matt, but it said 6-pack when I was first told about this. But I love these fun questions.
Surprise!
No, I like this. Especially because this has kind of been my life. I think I'm on work from home /quarantine day 13. I work at a college, so we kind of closed down a little bit earlier than a lot of the private industry had. So I've been in my 1-bedroom apartment for a while now. I've been playing. I picked back up League of Legends for the PC.
Right on.
So that was something that me and my roommates played a lot in college when I had a lot of free time. And now that, have a little bit more time in the apartment, and I finished the rookie guide. That was my friends kept asking me to re-download it, and I was like, let me finish this guide and then I will do it. So I've been hooked on that a little bit. That's a big time killer. Been playing a lot of Madden. Doing a co-franchise right now with Clint, who provided the beer for tonight. We're doing a co-franchise. My team is much better than his. I'm sure he'll be salty when he's listening to this, but it's just a fact. And then I'm trying to think of a good. There's so many that I could do with this third game. I'm a huge video game person. I will say one game that could keep me entertained for a very long time is Civilization.
Sure.
Okay.
Because
yeah.
that just eats up so much time, and I'm a history nerd, so I really enjoy that as well.
There you go. All right. Good answers. We're fully prepared to judge you, but I definitely can't hate on Civ or Madden or League at all, honestly.
Yeah,
so there you go.
All good choices. Good. I feel good.
You should feel good. We'll see how you do with question 12 when we get there. All right, Dan.
Oh,
wow. That's okay. That's a good one.
Back to you.
All right, let's jump right back into the rookie talks here. Let's go to the fun and I guess the meat and potatoes of this draft class. Running backs and receivers. We'll jump off with the running backs. We'll start off at the top. There's been a lot of debate, RB1 through RB5, even RB6 with Keyshawn Vaughn kind of making waves of top people in the industry putting Keyshawn Vaughn ahead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, at least until the actual NFL draft. So, Matt, how does your top 5, if you want to throw in 6, that's fine. How does your top 5 running backs for the rookie draft this year shape up to be?
Yeah, number one, DeAndre Swift. Swift was my running back one before the 2019 season. Nothing has changed for me. Just a really well-rounded special back. Great speed. Now, he doesn't have Jonathan Taylor's speed in a straight line, but he's electric. He gets to the second level very quickly, and he has good downfield acceleration skill. Great explosion, bursts off the line of scrimmage. Like I said, gets that second level very quickly. Very agile player, consistently making just kind of weaving around the field, consistently makes guys miss, super elusive in space. He's very dangerous in space. He's a very, very creative runner. Fantastic cuts, sharp change of direction. He manipulates defenders. He uses subtle body movements, but he's also a really powerful back. He's just as effective working inside of the tackles as he is bouncing it to the outside. Really, really great contact balance. He absorbs contact extremely well. If you're not fully wrapping him up as a defender, you're not bringing him down. He's strong. He's compact. He powers through defenders. But this is the thing that he doesn't get enough credit for. I think he's got the best hands of any running back in this class. He's a natural receiver. And oftentimes, Georgia would actually line him up out wide. And if you didn't know that he was the running back, if he wasn't wearing the running back number, you would have thought he was a wide receiver out there for Georgia. And DeAndre Swift was actually one of their top three leading receivers, I believe, each of the last 2 years, at least last year. And that's not saying, in terms of receptions, that's not saying a lot because Georgia doesn't throw the ball very much. But DeAndre Swift was a critical part of their passing offense, even with that being, kind of keeping that in mind. DeAndre Swift, back-to-back 1,000-plus yard seasons for Georgia, despite only averaging about 180 carries a game. Remember, Georgia does two things. They recruit a lot of running backs, and they recruit a lot of really good running backs. We're talking about Todd Gurley. We're talking about Nick Chubb. And next year, we're going to be talking about Zamir White. I mean, they have a plethora of running backs that pipeline to the NFL. And that means there's not a lot of volume and opportunity, but DeAndre Swift made the most of all of his opportunities to touch the ball. And he was playing against the best competition week in and week out every single year and always found a way to dominate them. So DeAndre Swift is my running back one for all of those reasons. J.K. Dobbins is my running back two. I really like J.K. Dobbins. He's super well-rounded. I think he fits in a variety of NFL offenses. He has the best vision in the class, hands down. Best change of direction skills in the class. Super quick, super explosive. Like I said, he sees the entire field. He's a very, very consistent runner. A lot of people put J.K. Dobbins as the running back three, and what I tell all of them is watch like 7-8 games of film. I know that's a lot of film to watch on one guy, but you really start to appreciate the consistency of J.K. Dobbins as you watch him more over time. Really great lower body strength, consistently finishes runs. He's a powerful runner just as much as he is an agile runner. Super good contact balance. And he bounces off of contact. He's super elusive in space. It's ridiculous. And what a lot of people don't give J.K. Dobbins enough credit for, in 2019, he ran for 2,003 rushing yards on 301 attempts. That's the same exact amount of rushing yards as Jonathan Taylor, my running back three, ran for on 320 attempts. So although people consider Jonathan Taylor to be uber productive, which he of course is, and he did it over 3 years, at least in 2019, J.K. Dobbins showed that he has the ability to be just as productive. Jonathan Taylor is my running back three. I love Jonathan Taylor as well. I don't think that I'm going to get him in any rookie drafts because I think that other people just like him more than I do. But obviously, he's super fast in a straight line. He's powerful. He's a boulder when he's running with the ball. Great contact balance. Best strength in the class to go along with that speed. He just does not have super fantastic change of direction for me. It's good. It's just not as high as some of these other guys. He's not as agile as some of these other guys. Again, he is agile, but if you're just comparing him to the other running backs, that's where I start to just draw those comparisons. And we're being nitpicky here. These top three guys, you end up with any of them, and you're fantastic. My running back four is Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU. Big fan of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I got to be honest, I tell everybody, I ruled this guy out before this last season. I said that John Emery Jr., the freshman at LSU from last year, is going to be a sophomore this year. I said that he was going to beat him out in the preseason. Edwards-Helaire really proved me wrong. And a big part of that was because of his pass catching skills. He's a really consistent pass catcher. He's got soft hands. This man finds a way to be productive. He's explosive off the line of scrimmage. He's super athletic. He's got a really nice wiggle to his hips. The play is never over when this guy has the ball in his hands. Very, very creative runner. Consistently escapes difficult situations. And solid strength, solid contact balance. A lot of people compare him to Mark Ingram. I think a lot because of his size, that 5'7", 208. But I think he's more of a pass catcher and a little bit less of a power guy than Mark Ingram. You got to be careful with those comps. And then my running back 5 is Cam Akers out of Florida State. This is a guy that I'm glad that fantasy football Twitter is finally catching on about. But the guys who have kind of been locked a little bit more into college football have been advocating for this guy for a few years now. Ran for 1,000 yards as a true freshman. He was a top recruit, the top overall running back recruit in his class, the 3rd overall recruit in his high school recruiting class, 5-star player. And he's kind of been trapped behind a really poor offensive line here in 2018, but he made the best of that in 2019 and really improved 1,100 rushing yards, really good speed. Once he hits that second level, that acceleration, the game's over. You're not catching up to him if you have not gotten him at the second level. Once he hits that third part of the field, it's over. Shoots like a cannonball off the line of scrimmage, really clean cuts. This guy has dealt for 3 years of being the only true threat in his offense because the quarterback play has been so bad. So even really good wide receivers like Tamorian Terry have been essentially a non-threat because they have to lock in on Cam Akers. This guy was playing against eight-man boxes half the time, and that led to really, really good contact balance and good vision. And that's my top 5. We could keep going down for a while, guys. There's a lot of really good running backs, and it's deep. Like the depth of this class is what makes it so special.
Well, we'll save the next guys for the next part of the question after the fun one. But let's digest your top 5 here, Hopper. What are your thoughts? I know that you and I aren't as high on Dobbins. I know that our number 1 is.
I'm about to go. I'm about to go.
I know you've been rearing to go. You were not a Dobbins guy, so let's hear it, buddy.
All right, so Dobbins is my 4, so we'll get to him 4th.
That's fine.
All right, so Jonathan Taylor is my number 1. Now, while Dobbins, yes, did check productivity, so have most other Ohio State backs, and Ezekiel Elliott has been like the only one in the last 8 years that's been worth a damn. But anyway, Jonathan,
don't you badmouth Mike Weber like that?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
no.
Yeah, exactly. Make my point for me. So Jonathan Taylor, first off, checks in, good size, absolute monster productivity. You mentioned the explosiveness. He is incredibly explosive. Strong downhill runner. I may switch this to DeAndre Swift before it's all said and done, honestly. I'll get to Swift here in a second because Taylor and Swift are that close for me. But a strong downhill runner, can move piles, pick up yards. There's great acceleration. Got the speeds to get in the edge and work in the screen game. Now, the things about Jonathan Taylor that scare me a little bit, doesn't show a ton of lateral movement or a lot of angle. He'd much rather run downhill, run through guys, get to that second level, and then take off. And, sometimes the vision can be a little bit, it looks to be a little lacking on film. I don't want to say it absolutely is because, again, the guy shows the ability to be explosive and find holes. I think it's just he prefers to not run outside almost. But right, the thing that led me to put Taylor just a little bit over Swift is that while Swift is by far the most well-rounded back in this class, I think Taylor's elite traits of the explosiveness and the strength and the power that he shows in his runs are actually elite traits as opposed to very, very, very good well-rounded traits. Now, DeAndre Swift, I mentioned that he was close. He's my 2nd running back. He's got a very, very good quick twitch, very good change of direction. He doesn't lose speed, slippery, great balance through tackles, good in blitz pickup, very comfortable receiving and running routes like Matt mentioned, great open field vision, and he does have a second gear. It's like DeAndre Swift is everything everybody wanted Sony Michel to be, except DeAndre Swift is actually going to be it, whereas Sony Michel never was going to be that. He doesn't quite have the same explosiveness as, say, a Jonathan Taylor. He can be stood up because he doesn't quite have the same strength as the Jonathan Taylor, and he does having one or the other ahead of each other. My number 3 is going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The Mark Ingram comparisons fly all over the place with him, as Matt mentioned. Don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Smart runner. He knows where his blocks are. He knows how to use them. He's got plus vision. He rarely misses holes, cutbacks. Finds them. Downfield lanes. Finds them. Shows some explosiveness and quickness. Shiftiness is definitely there. Look, he may end up as more of a receiving back than a between the tackles running back. But I think he can be very, very good at that, but also have ability as a runner. He struggles a little bit with pass blocking. Speed's fine, but as we saw on his 40 times and everything, it's not breakaway. He doesn't break off big runs. Had some struggles in short yardage. Especially when he got wrapped up at the line, so he's going to need a little bit of a line in front of him. But Hilaire's my 3. J.K. Dobbins. The thing with J.K. Dobbins is that I think he's a little bit better T.J. Logan, which is kind of an indictment, but he's explosive. You can't take that away from him. He's very, very quick. He sees holes. Once he finds them, he can hit them, but he works better outside. I don't know that the agility is necessarily there so much as the explosiveness is there. He doesn't look like he runs through contact well. The balance didn't appear to be great, and I didn't watch 7 or 8. I watched 5, so not quite the level that Matt did. He does get a lot of yards, though, on his breakaway runs. He's above average in pass protection. Takes good angles away from defenders in the open field. He does have breakaway speed. He is a guy that I think in the NFL is probably going to give you a lot of headaches. And then he's going to hit a home run. And, I think there's a chance for him to be a little bit more inconsistent. And even if he lands in a bad spot where, they don't use him right, if he doesn't get worked outside, if he doesn't have blockers outside or a team that's not necessarily good at working him in that way, to where it could be rough sledding for him. And I think that the bust potential is a little bit higher for Dobbins than it is some other backs. And then my number 5 is Keyshawn Vaughn, with also a shout out to AJ Dillon. Keyshawn Vaughn actually was very, very surprising to me. He's got the speed to make you pay for his mistakes. If there's a hole there, he's going to find it. He's got a good stiff arm, not Justin Jackson levels of stiff arm, but still a good stiff arm. Can break off big runs. He flashes that ability kind of at will, too. He's got good fight, keeps his legs moving when he stood up. I watched him pick up 2 blocks in the same pass play, particularly in a game against LSU. He picked up 1 blocker and then broke off of it because he pretty much pancaked the guy and turned around and picked up the next one. So I think he could be on all 3 downs. The agility and vision aren't necessarily elite. Pass blocking at times can be inconsistent. It's kind of one of those when you're on, when you're not things. And he does at times struggle to create blocks when they're not there. But overall, Keyshawn Vaughn's a guy that I think if you see any form of draft capital invested in him, particularly in those first 4 rounds, in a good landing spot, that I'm very, very interested in as a value.
Yeah, I like Keyshawn Vaughn a lot. He's my running back 6. And in my overall rankings, he's only 1 spot behind Cam Akers. So I'm a huge Keyshawn Vaughn fan. And everything I said about being in a bad situation for Cam Akers, times that by like 4, and you get what Keyshawn Vaughn had to deal with at Vanderbilt.
Right, and Illinois before that, I think.
Yeah, and Illinois before that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So there's my takes on it, though. And we're going to disagree on Dobbins, and I think that you're either super hot or super cold on Dobbins. It's kind of like Henry Ruggs.
True.
Well, there's a lot to take there. I'm not going to run through mine here because I don't want to go too long in this, but I will say my top 5 with all the context already thrown out there for why we love all these guys and what are some of the concerns we have for them. So mine would be Taylor, Swift, Akers, Dobbins, and then I'm torn between Vaughn and Helaire. But honestly, his landing spots, the one thing concerning about Vaughn is going to be draft capital. You want him to go day 2 to kind of hit a lot of those comps that you want from him. He's got the size to be an every down back, and if you can be the best player on your team, the team like Vanderbilt playing in the SEC, that says a lot. He was third highest in his team's overall share in terms of production, in terms of yards and touchdowns. And he was third to Jonathan Taylor and I believe Cam Akers. So there's a lot to love there. All these guys can end up being the 101 based on landing spot and based on draft capital. You could see 3 to 4 running backs taken in the first round. It wouldn't be shocking. You can only see one. We've seen a lot of ranges from Swift to Taylor to a guy like Dobbins who didn't test at the combine. Many believe because he was massively productive coming out of high school as a track guy, just like Taylor was. Reports of him being able to run a sub 4.4 as well. So it's super athletic. A lot of these guys are, and it's going to be, again, like usual, massive landing spot dependent. And lots going to change after the draft night. But let's move on. Let's get to Hopper's second fun question, and let's keep this train rolling.
All right, little shoot from the hip, but not as far off as the video game question was. So, Matt, you've been doing this, and really we've all been doing this for a couple of years now, particularly with rookies in the draft. So, looking back at previous draft classes, what call are you most proud of, and which bust are you most disappointed about?
This is a good question. I think that in general, I feel the most confident in quarterbacks, just like in general as a position. I feel like that is a position that I've been pretty successful in evaluating. The most proud call definitely has to be Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was my QB2 in that draft class, even after the draft ended and he went 5th off the board. A lot of people had kind of given up on him. A lot of lazy Twitter scouts out there thought he couldn't throw the ball. And of course, his athletic upside has always been an asset for fantasy football. So I won a couple leagues specifically, and I was really good in a lot of other leagues specifically because I had Lamar Jackson on my roster, and that paid off huge dividends for me. Translating that into, I think what's going to be really good for me this year is in Hopper. We were talking about him earlier on Twitter. It's going to be Drew Lock for a much different reason. Drew Lock's in a place to succeed. He was my quarterback 1 in last year's draft class, even with Kyler Murray in the mix. I really believe in Drew Lock and his arm strength and his mechanics. And, I think he was pretty much able to overcome, literally his coach like weekly trashing him in the media last year and still progressing and developing. And, he didn't have a ton of targets when he started in Denver last year, but those targets are really starting to develop with Sutton and Font. And now he's got Melvin Gordon there too. So I really like those two guys. I will say, I think a big learning curve for me was that I had to, at the wide receiver position, stop, kind of keep in check what I liked from a wide receiver and really start to see the traits that the NFL appreciates. And separation is one of those traits. And being a big-bodied receiver is not one of those traits. So for last year, I had Hakeem Butler really high. That did not work out. Kelvin Harmon fell all the way to the 6th round. He was my wide receiver 1 last year. I'm not willing to call that one a bust quite yet because when Kelvin Harmon got on the field in an inefficient offense last year, he actually was pretty efficient and he earned his time onto the field. Now, is he going to live up to that wide receiver 1 ranking anytime soon? No, probably not. So I think the wide receiver position was one that when I went into scouting and evaluating guys this year, I really tried to keep in mind the things that I thought the NFL appreciated more, things like speed, things like route running, release ability, and kind of, trying to look at those things more than just, the ability to like high point a ball, for instance, is what Kelvin Harmon was really good at, as in addition with a couple other things. So I've kind of tried to adapt my style over time when those things do blow up in your face.
Yeah. Dan, go ahead and take your victory lap and I was sad about this, and then I'll give mine.
Yeah, I think one of my more proud ones, I don't know. I don't really try to hang too high on the ones that I'm proud on because I feel like a lot of people hit on them. And I guess I don't take too bold of a call. I will hang my hat on Marlon Mack. I was the highest one on the show, but it's and like he's hit. He's been a thing. It took him a little bit to get there because he was so, he's a bit raw coming out of coming out of college. So it's I'm not one to take the laps. That's always been Hopper's kind of job of the show. Especially, I'm assuming one of the guys he'll bring up is also coming from that class. But my greatest miss, this is the reason why I really adjusted how I do my rookie filming or do my rookie, kind of a breakdown throughout, and why I've really got myself off of film. And film is just not something I'm super comfortable with moving forward, especially for quarterbacks, which is the exact opposite of Matt, and that is Deshaun Kaiser. I will never let myself live down from that. We actually just went through the 2017 class for the last time. For those of you that are unaware, we go through a rookie class 3 separate times: freshman, sophomore, junior year, or I guess a rookie, second year, and third year. And we kind of adjust to see what their dynasty value is and then how we feel about them. Kaiser was by far my biggest miss. He was my QB1. I was the guy that was in love with the big body, big arm, who gives a fuck if they know football type of skill set. And I got burned pretty heavily on that. Now I've massively adjusted with how I view quarterbacks now, but I won't hide from that.
All right. My 2 biggest hits, I'll give 2 for the big hits. Cooper Kupp in year 1, which I think is the one Dan was pretty sure I was going to mention.
Oh God, no! I know you were.
I fell in love with Cooper Kupp. The first film that I watched, like hard hat lunch pail, just the way he worked. And I've always felt like I've been a little bit better at wide receivers than really anything else. And part of it was Cooper Kupp, just his route running ability, his ability to win without being the most athletic guy on the field. Really showed out to me, and the fact that one was nailed makes me super happy. And then for quarterbacks, there's always some guy I take a liking to. Like, I have a thing for obscure quarterbacks, hence if you haven't noticed, hence the Chad Kelly love. But Gardner Minshew last year, and being able to come in and perform. Gardner Minshew was a guy that I had specifically highlighted as a late round pick that I thought had a chance to actually start at some point in the league, and sure, it came sooner than I thought it was. And to Dan's credit, he also was right there on the talent with Minshew, and just, he had a lot of balls tipped and things like that. But overall, we thought he had the ability to succeed, and then he came into the league and did, and is now going to be a second-year starter. So that one was pretty cool. Mrs. Samaje Perine.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you weren't super high on him.
It was like my 4 or 5.
You were the only one that liked him, so you felt compelled to defend it.
Yeah. So Samaje, missed big time on Samaje Perine. I can't even go back really and pinpoint why. I think Nick hit the nail on the head though, and I don't think I took the combine into account enough. But I think Nick's knocks on Perine with not being an aggressive enough runner, and I still remember this because he argued with me about it. Not being an aggressive enough runner, not running angry or anything like that, were big things for me to learn about and to really kind of watch how a guy played. And then kind of missing the other way, Lamar Jackson's ability as a thrower. Whereas Matt was right on Jackson. I missed on Jackson, and I don't want to say it was a lazy take, but I had some serious concerns about longevity, injury, and if he was going to be able to develop as a passer in the league. And I've already kind of paid my comeuppance on this, and I've said it a million times on the show that he progressed. I've progressed with how I've been impressed with how he's progressed, and I was wrong about that. Ability to change your opinions on people. Everybody take note of that. But
right.
That was a miss in the draft process for me, was what Lamar Jackson could develop into, and how much that athleticism actually did matter.
Well, I mean, it was great because the offense was built for him to succeed. And I think a lot of things are taken are like we're trained to think a quarterback can only succeed, based around certain traits. And what we've seen now with college quarterbacks, now kind of invading the NFL, is the adjustments to more of the college style offenses. And teams finally figuring out, instead of making a player to fit their scheme, they're building the scheme to maximize the potential, of those players. And guys that most people have hated, see Josh Allen and Daniel Jones, have found success. And fantasy football isn't just about being the best at throwing the football. It's maximizing your potential to score, fantasy points, and rushing ability, I think at times gets massively overlooked, from the quarterback position. I think that's, like with you, I'm learning that you can't just discredit a quarterback's athletic ability and ability to to gain yards on the ground.
What's up, Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Dan, you want to move on to question 5? I know we already kind of touched on this a little bit, but
yeah, we're going to try to speed this up here. So the second half of the running back question is the second half of the running backs outside of these rankings. Why don't you guys give us a couple running backs that just don't get talked about enough, guys that we should be looking at in our second round and third round and even fourth round of our rookie drafts?
I'll go ahead and give one. I'll kick it over to Matt. I already talked about Keyshawn Vaughn. I do have a couple running backs that showed out well, like Jermichael Hasty, like Darrington Evans, Benjamin, some of those guys that I still need to watch that, passed every other check I did to actually make it to the film round. But A.J. Dillon's who I want to choose to highlight as a guy that could really jump out as a potential later round pick. First off, he's huge. He's 6 foot, I think checked in at 247. 35
a thick boy.
Point,
240. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, 35.9 BMI, but the fun stuff on AJ Dillon, he ran a 4.53 40, 135 burst score, 117 speed score. The numbers, the combine numbers are absolutely amazing for a guy that size. He's definitely between the tackles runner, but plus balance through contact. Solid vision. He didn't really miss holes, push piles, doesn't get bullied off of pass blocks, gets small at the line of scrimmage. The bottom line is he's just a really, really good power runner that could be a complementary piece. The first thing that came to mind when I watched him was maybe Detroit and a complementary piece and an insurance piece to carry on Johnson. But there's a couple places he could land where I think he'd be a good complementary, just power between the tackles guy and be very, very good at that. He doesn't show a ton outside of the tackles. He's not really a great receiver, so I think he is more suited for a kind of an RBBC with a more athletic pass catching type of back. Doesn't really show breakaway speed or elite burst, but when it comes to grinding out yards, I think he's very, very, very good. We'll need a bit of a line, but again, if you're looking for a complementary flex piece in those later rounds, I think A.J. Dillon is probably going to be your guy.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up A.J. Dillon. I love A.J. Dillon as a college player. He's somebody that I've definitely watched a lot of film on. I backed off of him a little bit because I'm not sure that he fits, what the NFL needs right now. I think 15 years ago, we'd be talking about this guy as a top running back in this class. I really do. But I will say that 240 dude, like he's not fat. Like this guy is cut.
No.
This guy is straight muscle at 247, and his combine, I think, really kind of gave me the confidence to shoot him back up in my board. And so he's going to be, definitely a mid-round target for me now. It's really going to depend on where he's at, man. If he's a guy where he can vulture touchdowns on the goal line, like I'm all for it. Let's do it. If he ends up being like Saquon Barkley's backup in New York, which could be, a good compliment for him NFL-wise, it's not fantastic fantasy-wise, but
right.
I'm really glad you brought him up. He's also a new London, Connecticut native. So I appreciate the Connecticut shout out. We don't get to talk about Connecticut prospects a lot.
Because nobody actually lives there.
Hey, there's a few of us. 3.5 million. I don't know. I don't even live there anymore. So I guess I can't really get on that high horse too much. So 2 guys that I want to throw out there that I really like, and they're definitely going to be the guys that I want to attach my name on from this draft class. First and foremost, Anthony McFarland out of Maryland. Fantastic straight line speed, shoots off the line of scrimmage, bursts upfield. He can turn, cut, and burst upfield. Ridiculous. Super light on his feet, sharp movements. He is an extremely slippery player. I don't use that term a lot, but he is slippery. Like, it looks like he's going down, but guys just don't actually ever wrap him up. Solid vision, clean cuts, clean change of direction. He didn't get a ton of opportunity in Maryland. He played just his redshirt freshman and redshirt sophomore years, but he had 1,000 yards last year on just 131 attempts. Had some injury problems this year, but just 114 attempts, but he had 614 yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. He also absolutely can be a PPR guy at the next level. Maryland didn't use him a ton in the passing game, but he's an absolute danger in open field. He's got consistent hands, so he has the ability to be an impact player in the passing game. I think he ends up going high day 3, late day 2, surprises a lot of people, and is a perfect complement back. He's not going to be the guy that catches the ball or runs the ball 20 times a game, but he could get 5 to 10 touches on the ground a game, 5 to 10 targets a game, and those could start adding up for fantasy football purposes. So I really like him. And then Hopper, you referenced JaMychal Hasty earlier. I love JaMychal Hasty. Like no production in college, like minimal production. His best season was his senior year, where he ran the ball 109 times for 627 yards. But when you flip on the tape, there's a reason this guy made it to the Senior Bowl. And when he was at the Senior Bowl is when he really jumped on a lot of people's radars. There's a reason he got there. Super fantastic acceleration downfield. Beats defenders to the edge, bursts off the line of scrimmage, nasty juke move. This guy is a mean juke move, man. Navigates in between the tackles very well, very clean cut, smooth, and he has really, really good contact balance. He powers through contact, low center of gravity, 5'8", 205. He reminds me more of Mark Ingram. If I don't love comps, but that low center of gravity, power type back, but he's got the ability to kind of hit that next gear, and he's not being talked about a whole lot because the folks who really lock into production are just not even going to put this guy on your radar. It's not even an option. But he was really effective in Baylor's offense this year.
All right, Dan, you got anybody you want to shout out?
I got one. He hasn't made the move yet. He gets talked about a lot in the Twitter community and the podcast that I listen to. That's Antonio Gibson out of Memphis. He ran with the running backs at the Senior Bowl. He tested with the wide receivers during the combine, so it's not really a question of if, it's probably when. 6 foot 228, that great BMI of 30.9, 67th percentile. He ran a 4.39 at that size. It's a 99th percentile size adjusted speed score. What the biggest thing is what he was able to do with the football in his hands. Dude averaged 15.5 yards per touch. He had 71 touches this past season, over 1,100 yards on the ground between receiving and rushing, 12 total touchdowns there. The project piece, who knows what's going to come of this, but if you can make that adjustment from receiver to running back and a team can buy in to that positional change, this guy could be a dynamic player out of the backfield for whatever team he lands on. He could be that second or third round pick, maybe even you can get him in the fourth, depending on the league that you're in, that could really, kind of provide that hit that you need from those later rounds. Huge Antonio Gibson fan.
All right. I think that rounds out the running back question. So we're going to do a quick hitter on question 6, try to speed this up a little bit. So no context at all. Just give me player names. NFL free agency brought about a ton of moves. Which new face, new place are you most excited for, and which one did you find the most questionable? Dan, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, man. Hopkins in Arizona. I don't think it's great for fantasy year for this season, but I am super pumped as being a huge Hopkins fan. I guess most disappointing, maybe Tom Brady at Tampa Bay, because it just didn't make much sense to me. But I don't really have maybe Diggs in Buffalo.
Matt, who do you got?
Yeah, I like Hayden Hurst to Atlanta. I think that's a sneaky good fantasy football prospect right there. And also, it only kind of counts, but I love Austin Eckler back to the Chargers. And Diggs to Buffalo, like Dan said, that's my biggest fantasy football question mark. I did an article for Gridiron Experts about how you shouldn't actually be excited about Stephon Diggs to Baltimore, or not to Baltimore, to Buffalo, for his fantasy football purposes at least. It doesn't hurt him, but I don't think it really helps him either.
It doesn't move the needle anywhere. I mean, like he's moving from a team that was likely going to be more pass heavy this upcoming season with the amount of a pieces lost on defenses as Minnesota, to a team that should win the division, that should control the football and the lead for majority of games, and then we'll find the same problems he had in Minnesota. He'll probably deal with that in Buffalo.
Yep. All right. For me, we're going to start with my least favorite because I like to focus on the negative first. My least favorite one was Tom Brady going to Tampa. I agree with Dan. That didn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, they've done some things to address the things that didn't make sense to me. but this isn't Jameis Winston who you're going to roll out. Yes, 30 picks. Okay, I get it. This isn't Jameis Winston who's also going to bail out your lack of a secondary with 5,500 yards and 30 touchdowns there too. He's not that guy anymore. They needed to do some things on the defense. They definitely needed to do some things on the offensive line. And to their credit, they have done some things. My biggest question is, will it be enough? And if you're going to take a bridge quarterback, why wouldn't you see what you had in the younger guy instead of the 43-year-old? I guess you can't say see what you have, but maybe the LASIK help. Maybe you try to put some pieces around there so you aren't as reliant on Jameis instead of just swapping him out. As far as my favorite, I gotta agree with Dan. It's Hopkins in Arizona. I think that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm not high in it for fantasy this season. We've seen the potential difficult transitions from switching the team even in the offseason. Just see as recent as Odell Beckham from moving on from the Giants to the Browns. And just with the lack, there's just so much target competition on an offense that, yes, had a lot of plays per game, but was just average in terms of passing plays per game. So I don't think the volume's going to be there to dictate it. And you have to talk about the chemistry that, like, he's going to have to rebuild that. He's going to have to rebuild chemistry with Kyler Murray with a lot more competition. But as for football purposes, I absolutely love the move.
Yeah, special mention to Phillip Rivers in Indy, by the way. I think a one-year deal was a really good move for that as well. I think that's a team with a good offensive line and the same type of pieces that can allow him to be successful. Let's get into a beer review.
Beer review.
All right, I'm going to go because I've got like half of a drink left of this, and I've been savoring it and holding off on it. So, Odin Quadruple from Abandoned Building Brewery. Kind of a hard one to say. Belgian style ale. It is at 10%. Maybe that's playing in here a little bit. Overall, a really, really good quad. The higher alcohol content doesn't necessarily hide. There is a little bit of just a subtle like booziness to it, and I don't know if that's because I sat on it for a while waiting to give Dan his, and it's not exactly as fresh as it could have been. But overall, a lot of good flavor to this beer. Like with a lot of Belgian beers, kind of the esters of the yeast really pop out and give it some decent, almost fruity characteristics. It's got a really nice kind of clarity and color to it. Not too malt forward, but the malt definitely is there and really complements everything else that's going on with this beer. Overall, it's a very, very good quad. And I have quite enjoyed this one. I think the double that I had a couple weeks ago, probably more my speed. The quad is just more of a alcoholed up version of that. So both very, very good beers from Abandoned Building, and we will have a third one on here in the coming weeks. Dan, what did you think of Dovetail?
So this is Dovetail, their Vienna style lager here. This is their Marzen, their Oktoberfest. Aroma smell like you would expect from a beer like this, and that heavy malt and toffee really sticks out on the nose here as you drink it. It's an in-between of what I would consider a Marzen from Europe and then the American style Oktoberfest. It's got a nice kind of subtle, rich sweetness to it. It's not just overly dry like you may get from there. It's not as light of a body when you drink it, but it does finish dry. It does give off to the European type of hops and yeast that they use for drinks like this. It's very good. Like I am thoroughly excited to keep trying the beers that I have from them that we were able to bring down here, to my work here. So you shout out to them for that, and I'm excited to try their Hef and their other lager.
Matt, I won't put you on the spot for this because whiskey reviews can be a little bit tough, but how's your old Smokey? You want to give a review on that, or you want to keep moving?
I will just say, if you find yourself in the southeast United States, you need a little vacation spot, head down to Gatlinburg for the weekend. It's a beautiful part of the country, just mountains, Great Smoky Mountains. And Gatlinburg, you can find Old Smoky and you can hit that up. You can do the sampling at Old Smoky. They do whiskey, but they're really known for their moonshine. And then you can do Sugarland, which is right next to it, and you can get yourself feeling real good. Then you stumble down to Old Smoky, and then you can do the whiskey tasting. All these are like basically free. I think there's a wine tasting in between there. You could have yourself a good time for like $5. I have a whole shelf full of the moonshine to go along with the whiskey. Just, a shout out to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It's a good weekend spot. Get yourself a cabin. Go down there with a couple friends, the family. You'll have a good time.
You have some of the apple pie moonshine sitting here as well.
So. Oh, I love the apple pie moonshine, man.
Really good. My father-in-law brought me that one back. So my dad brought me the actual big bottle of Tennessee whiskey. My father-in-law brought me the moonshine.
Very nice. If you're looking for a little bit of a cocktail, it sounds a little weird. Mix the apple pie with a little Mountain Dew. It's a good mix.
Okay. All right. Dan, kicking it back to you. And again, we'll try to fast track this a little bit. But you got question 7.
Yeah, we're going to move on to receivers, the other meat and potatoes of this draft cast here. Hopper and I both know the answer to this fairly basic question here, but I think Twitter and the people out there who may not know. Matt, are you Team Judy or Team Lamb?
Absolutely, 100% Team Lamb.
So are the both of us here.
Us
Absolutely
too.
Love CD.
Among friends.
Who rounds out your top 5, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I will talk specifically about CD Lamb, and then I'll breeze over these other guys. Lamb was my Lamb was my wide receiver 1 back in July. He is still my wide receiver 1. I've held all the way through, and it seems like other people are picking up on this, which is really exciting. He wins before the catch. He wins after the catch. This man just finds ways to win. Before the catch, I think he's an underrated route runner. He stems his routes fairly well. He's got a more diverse tree than you usually see from Oklahoma. It's still not a really well-developed tree because Oklahoma doesn't ask you to do that. But he finds ways to separate in space. He separates at the catch point, wins consistently, a huge catch radius, an uber athlete. He has aggressive but subtle hands. I mentioned earlier, I don't like comps, but I compare his hands specifically to DeAndre Hopkins. The way he's able to be physical but still play within the realm of the game with his handwork at the catch point is ridiculous. He has consistent body positioning, always puts himself in a position to win. Mind-blowing combination of explosiveness and body control. Then that's just before the catch. So he's going to go up and he's going to catch pretty much anything. And you can see some incredible highlight reel catches. But with the ball in his hands after the catch, he's just as dangerous. Quick feet, fluid, really great lateral quickness. This man's basically impossible to wrap up. Everyone's seen the tape at this point of Texas, but if you haven't, at one point, he's got 5 guys fully surrounding him in a circle, and he gets out of it and finds his way into the end zone. He is a yards after catch monster, extremely elusive, great contact balance, elite field vision. I don't use that word lightly. And then I mentioned earlier his hands, but I didn't talk about his consistency, sticky hands. Nobody has more consistent hands in this draft class, and he tracks the ball extremely, extremely well in the air. The last point I will make on him is that he was successful as a true freshman with Baker Mayfield. He was successful, 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns with Kyler Murray, a much different quarterback, his sophomore year. And then his junior year, 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns from Jalen Hurts. So he has adjusted to multiple different types of quarterbacks and been successful in doing that. I do have Jerry Jeudy as number 2. He's very good. I think you know why Jerry Jeudy is good at this point. He's a route running technician. He also has consistent hands. He has a really good release off of man coverage off the line of scrimmage. He has good agility, good athleticism. He's very good. He's a 1B. He's not the second best wide receiver. He's a 1B for me. My number 3 is T. Higgins. I love this man, 6'4", 216. It's impossible not to draw comparisons to Mike Williams, the other big man out of Clemson, but it plays very similar. He goes up and wins. And the thing that I specifically like to point out about T. Higgins when I'm talking about him is to point out the fact that in 2018, after watching his 2018 tape, I actually had a lot of question marks about him. But all of those question marks were now the traits that I have him ranked the highest on. I wasn't sold on his speed. He ran a good 40 time, and he looked quicker on tape this last year. His catching was inconsistent in 2018. In 2019, that's the best part of his film. He has super consistent hands. He got way better at ball tracking. He was much more aggressive. He has a large catch radius to go along with his large frame, and he climbs the ladder very well. And then he also at times just didn't look like he was in control of his body in 2018. 2019, fights through contact, great balance, rarely got knocked off, of course. The amount of improvement that I saw from 1 year to the next is really what sold me on him as my wide receiver 3. My wide receiver 4 is Henry Ruggs. I am a big Ruggs fan. I'm definitely in that camp. Ruggs gets oversold on his speed. He has elite speed, the 6th fastest 40-yard dash time in NFL Combine history, but he does so much more than that. Consistent hands, super dangerous in space, breaks a long play almost instantly. 1 out of every 4 times he touched the ball in college, he went to the end zone. He's really good at tracking the ball in the air. I saw him score on an equal amount of corner and post routes when watching tape as I did of him breaking off a long slant. He is a versatile guy. He's got a really good release off of press coverage, which is pretty much all anybody's playing off of him, by the way. And that is on top of being a super athletic, speedy guy. My number 5 guy is Justin Jefferson out of LSU. I love Justin Jefferson. He's super fluid. He gets off of the ball quick. He has really great route running. This is a guy who I think is going to fit very well in the NFL. Don't be surprised if he is the 4th wide receiver off the board NFL draft-wise. I think he very well could go to like Philly with, 21. He's not going to make it out of the first round. I'm convinced of that.
Not after that combine performance. He's
for sure a day one.
Yeah, the combine proved just how athletic he was. I think that perked up a lot of people's eyes, but we already had him rated as a top 5 wide receiver here at Dynasty Draft Room. And he has the ability to, at the next level, I think, to play big slot. And I think that's a mismatch that NFL teams are going to want. And they can kick him out to the Z, but I think they're going to want to play him in big slot, and he's going to be a matchup nightmare there.
Well, he showed that he had the athletic ability to be a guy that can play both inside and out, which is why him posting a really good combine, especially 40 time, really kind of helped ease that and really put his comps, to that stratosphere. You throw in a day 1 draft capital, that round 1 draft capital, with his testing and with his production profile. There's a reason why he's also in my top 5 as well. There's a reason why that he belongs there.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm a little different. Go figure. Now, I will say this about this class. This is a class that could very well go 9-10 wide receivers deep as far as fantasy production, and I would not be surprised in the least bit. Now, that being said, I am a CeeDee Lamb wide receiver 1, a truther. Matt is among company. I don't think there's anything else I need to cover there. Matt already touched on most of it. The athletic ability, the hands, the downfield work. So, gotta kind of gloss over CeeDee Lamb there. Denzel Mims, a guy that didn't get mentioned, is a guy that I just recently watched, and I love me some Denzel Mims. Still kind of out on him or Judy, but what I saw out of Mims was that he won in multiple ways. Get you on the release, could out jump you, could run by you. He just kind of found ways. He could do it with route running, great at boxing out defenders. Good vertical and high point ability. Moved to both sides of the field and in the slot occasionally. His athleticism really showed off the catch, but also in his routes, and the combine numbers completely back that up. Decent route tree and really good awareness as a blocker. The only thing I saw out of Mims I didn't necessarily like was concentration blocks. I'll leave everything you just said about Jerry Jeudy and T. Higgins to be true. They would be the next 2. The guy that you didn't mention that I want to talk about is my number 5, and this is one of my earliest draft crushes. There's actually 2 wide receivers that are draft crushes. This is number 1. The other one we'll get to here later on, but Devin Duvernay.
Oh man,
I love me some Devin.
Oh man,
some Devin Duvernay. He's a 100 reception guy. He had 1 great season basically, but 100 reception guy. Absolutely killed the combine. He drops nothing. If there's only 1 ball in his area that I saw get knocked away in the film that I watched. No drops. He does some work with the ball in his hands. He shows the ability to break tackles, play through contact, and hit another gear. Again, combine numbers back that up. Great route tree, a lot of nuances such as head fakes and jab steps to create separation. Those are things I saw out of Cooper Kupp in year 1 that I absolutely loved and that made him productive. tracks the football well. Used a lot in the slot, but he did see some snaps out wide, a little bit of razzle dazzle, had some willingness and an ability to block downfield too, which I think teams are going to love. He's not the biggest. I said he's not the fastest or most athletic, but he actually tested really, really well. He may not be able to play outside at the next level, but even as a slot guy, I think he can be a mismatch nightmare and a really, really good guy, especially for PPR if he lands in the right spot. So I love me some Devin Duvernay, and he's sitting 5 right now for me.
Yeah, a little bit of like Julian Edelman in what he can bring to a game in your fantasy football roster. There's a lot to like with Devin Duvernay. I love him as well.
Yep. All right, Dan, you got anything you would like to add or anything else you'd like to throw in there?
Yeah, I'll just throw out my top 5. I've done more work on the receivers than probably any other position in the draft so far because I just absolutely love the depth from top to bottom here. CeeDee Lamb, number 1. I am on board with you guys. I don't need to talk about it. Jalen Reagor is my number 2. He is my draft class. From the film. I don't really watch much film anymore. From the highlight films that I watch, from the actual game film that I watch. Don't get it twisted. I understand that he not put up the production you would want to see from his final season. But he arguably played. Yeah, right. He arguably played with one of the worst quarterback cores that we've seen ever. And he was still able to find production. He didn't test as well as people expected, running a 4.47 at the 40, but still massive bursts. Would love to see a better agility score. But I'm still under the impression that the entire 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle should just be thrown out with how they did the combine this year. I think he could end up potentially become the next DJ Moore in terms of his after the catch ability. The way that he wins, he can win in that contested catch territory. He was able to find production in a horrible offense. I've been a little bit tepid because I think he could fall out of the first round. If that happens, he will move down for me. But as of right now, he's my number 2. Judy's my number 3. My number 4 is Justin Jefferson. We've all hit on these guys. And my number 5 is Denzel Mims. We've all talked about these guys, reason why that we love them. Again, this draft class, this draft position for this draft class is going to run deep. And I 1000% agree with you, Chris, that we could see 8, 9, 10 guys be productive year 1. And when we're talking about this class in 3 years, it could run even bigger. Not all these guys are gonna be drafted into a position that's gonna allow them to be productive in year 1. So let's move on from these guys. We'll get on to some of the other names in our next football question. Let's move on to Hopper's third or fourth one.
Fourth. All right, Matt.
Fourth.
We're an alcohol show. So beer and booze and whatever else. So more quarantine questions. The world's ending. You got to choose a brewery or a distillery as your favorite to take with you. What are you taking? Which one? Well, and or. Let's do an and or.
So I'm going to give a 2-part answer to this. So I would say my favorite brewery. Now, I mentioned that I'm not as big of a beer guy anymore. I used to be. So I used to be, mostly a beer drinker. But my favorite brewery is Willie Brew, which you've probably, never heard of. It's I would say like my local brewery. It's in Willimantic, Connecticut, which is where I went to college. And so that was like the first like good, real person brewery that we went to. Local place. It's fantastic. They have fantastic food on top of their beer, but a ridiculously good beer selection. They brew in-house. It's fantastic. But then I'll do just like one that I've traveled to. I've been there twice. I really like it. Southern Tier in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
I love Southern Tier.
It's a fantastic brewery. It's a great experience. Some would say that I have enjoyed it too much in a particular visit that I went to. Which I guess while we're talking about Clint on today's show, I think he could attest to that for sure. But you got to get really drunk if you're going to a Pirates game. So that happened. It was a fantastic. They have I forgot the name of it. Their Samoa beer. It tastes just like the Girl Scout.
We've had it on the show. I'm pretty sure.
Fantastic. I think one time I ended up doing like 3 different flights there. There's just so many good options. I love that place. It's a great brewery. Pittsburgh's a fun city if you're ever just looking for like a weekend trip or anything like that.
Yeah, I can honestly say a Southern Tier is not something I've had a bad beer from, so I can agree with that. Dan, what are you taking with you?
Oh man, I wasn't expecting to be asked. I mean, I saw it. I probably should have thought more about it, but I mean, just by living down here, and my craft knowledge has really risen since I moved down here. And have worked with the show, and us obviously being a beer show, and then working within the craft beer community at my job. I don't know if I really have a favorite so far. I've really been impressed with Hand of Fate. They're out of Petersburg, about 25-ish miles.
My hometown. Little love to my hometown.
They have done some incredible work. Just being able to work with them and watching them grow and just produce our number one selling craft beer within our store. It's just a coffee vanilla cream ale, which is
They're
a
double
very
bean.
basic beer, but it fits the mold so well. With their collaborations with more of the local breweries, with in here and doing some fantastic APAs and IPAs, and Mike, their head brewmaster, absolutely loves saisons and wild ales with wild yeast, and some of the really fun Belgian style really get you fucked up and funky. I've been really excited to be able to try those styles of beers that he's been able to create at the tap room. So it's been an absolute blast to watch him grow. It's been an absolute blast to be able to try almost every beer they have on draft, and we generally go there at least once a month. So I without a doubt, right now, Hand of Fate for sure.
Yeah, Hand of Fate, my hometown brewery. Fun fact about Mike, by the way, Brent did a lot of work with him when they were opening that place. Brent being the guy that taught me how to brew. So
yeah,
there you go.
Brent is also very knowledgeable and makes. Like I'm excited for Dive Bomb. I'm excited to see what you guys can do with that and be able to see him grow.
I am too.
With that as well.
I am too. As for me, I'm gonna go distillery first if I had to take one because that's the easy one for me. It's Buffalo Trace. If I'm taking a distillery, I love my weeded bourbons. That's what Buffalo Trace does, and they're also responsible for Weller, which is probably my favorite line. But I believe. I know that Pappy's theirs, Blanton's theirs, so I got a lot of good things in that portfolio that I would want to take with me. The antique collection, Eagle Rare. So
aren't they E.H. Taylor too, or no?
E.H. Taylor, yes. Also,
yes. This is my favorite bourbon. So
I would absolutely take Buffalo Trace with me if I were going quarantine forever. As far as breweries, that's a little bit more of a tough one because I'm like you, Dan. I've been so exposed to a lot of good breweries. Gun to my head, if we're looting everything and I'm taking something with me, it might be Little Beaver. Just because I think they do so many different unique things and so many different spins on things that they do just a really good job. Triptych would be up there. Pollyanna's another one that I don't think I've had anything I don't like from them. So, but I would have to say that, gun to my head right now, I'm probably taking Little Beaver. I live in St. Louis. I don't get Little Beaver that often. We buy some every time I'm up there. They do some unique spins on things. $20 a 4-pack, a little steep sometimes, but if it's the apocalypse, I ain't paying $20 a 4-pack.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very familiar. As someone who works with them directly, and right now we have, I think, 8 of their products in line with them now creating a coffee vanilla cream ale, which I'm excited to try here at some point tonight. They do not they're expensive because they do not shy away from the adjuncts they add into their beers,
and that's why they're so flavorful. Because adjuncts aren't cheap, especially when you're doing them in big batches like that. But that is why they're so flavorful and why they're so good.
Super fun guys. I got to meet them a couple times. But if you're ever in the Bloomington area, definitely check them out. On top of checking out White Oak and Distill, in Normal. Illinois outside of Chicago has some fantastic breweries.
All down through the state.
Exactly. So don't just get shrun up on stuff outside Chicago. There's some good stuff going on here.
Springfield, Petersburg, Bloomington, Champaign, where Triptych is, 4204 down in Belleville. All kinds of good stuff throughout the state. Anyway, question 9, on to some depth guys. I'd say we probably each give one here that we like.
Yeah, so move on to to the depth receivers. What are some guys that there's guys get talked about a lot because it's just how deep this draft class is. So why don't you guys give us a name or two that we should be targeting in rounds 2, 3, 4 in a rookie drafts?
All right, I'll go. Gabriel Davis is a guy that
Damn it! Oh man,
that's why I wanted to go, because I figured you were going to go there too. It's another guy
really?
that we talked about.
Oh man, nobody ever steals that from me.
It's another guy that we talked about on Twitter. I made a comment about Gabe Davis, and you commented on it. So there you go. 34 games in his career, 152 receptions, 2,400 yards, one season 70-plus receptions, one season of 1,200-plus yards, one season over 10 touchdowns, playing for UCF, so a little bit smaller school. He's a good enough route runner to make you pay end zone or off coverage. Shows some ability to pick up yards after the catch. The release off the line got better as the season went on. The long strider who picks up speed as he works downfield. And the thing that scared me about Gabe Davis was going into the combine, because that was going to be make or break for him. And he showed out actually pretty well. 4.54 in the 40, 121.5 burst score, 103.1 speed score. Even the agility scores were okay and within range of where he should be successful. Does struggle a little bit with press coverage if he doesn't get the corner on the release. Doesn't show a lot of short range quickness or quick acceleration, but overall, like I said, the long speed, the ability to run routes and pick up yards after the catch. I think Gabriel Davis is a guy, if I'm betting on somebody later in drafts, that I want to pick up and stash that could maybe break out a little bit later in his career.
Matt, why don't you go ahead and give you yours?
Oh man, I love Gabriel Davis. I'm glad you chose him. I'm gonna go with a guy. He's actually just outside of my top 5. He's my wide receiver 6, since Hopper took my little bit deeper guy. That's Michael Pittman Jr. out of USC.
I'm looking right at him. I love
this. I love this. He's not getting enough hype. He had a really fantastic senior year. Now, he had a late breakout, and so if you care about breakout age and that's a determining factor for you, that might be why he's not on your radar. But just key in on this. 13 games in 2019. It's the only time he played all 13 games. 101 receptions, 1,275 yards, 11 touchdowns. USC, at a different point in time, had 3 different starting quarterbacks at the helm for them last year. And it ended up being Keaton Slovis, who was a true freshman last year, really connecting with Michael Pittman, and that he was really the guy for the true freshman. And remember, Michael Pittman put up these numbers, 1,275, 11 reception touchdowns, on an offense stacked with guys like Tyler Vaughns, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the type of guys that we are hyping up as the top of their prospective draft classes. But Michael Pittman Jr. found a way to produce. Strong, consistent hands. No matter the situation, he is the textbook definition of climbing the ladder, consistently wins contested catch balls, really good body positioning, a crisp route runner. Now, he's got a simple tree, but everything he ran well, sneakily fast. He has that speed, he has that acceleration upside, and he's athletic enough to compete. And he also lays the wood. Like, this guy is a willing blocker. All right. So,
wow.
Does he now? He lays some wood.
He's
laying
on
the wood
field
down.
and off the field.
The next Antonio Cromartie.
6'4", 223. I don't ever think Michael Pittman is going to be the best wide receiver on his team, but I think he's going to have a long, good career in the NFL as the second or third best wide receiver on his team. And that is not a knock. I think that's a very good thing. And I think he's going to be a very consistent wide receiver that I'd like to have on my fantasy football team. Also worth just keeping in mind with Michael Pittman, his dad was an All-Pro, won a Super Bowl in the NFL, and his brother is playing at Oregon. And so it's definitely a family business for the Pittmans.
Love it. I absolutely love me some Michael Pittman. I think him and Denzel Mims were the 2 guys that stood out the most from the Senior Bowl. That was all people talked about from the receiver standpoint on Twitter. while that was going on, was able to produce in an offense that with USC that had that's going to have two highly drafted receivers playing alongside with him. I agree with you, completely. Like, you're not going to draft him to be your number one receiver or number two, but he's going to provide good depth. And I think he could land at a team that's going to give you that early production you want from some of these second and third round picks. And then for my last one, I've seen his name a lot. This isn't a true homer pick because I'm not a huge college guy. I do like the Gophers, but I gotta give a shout out to Tyler Johnson. The production, the metric, darling alongside Brian Edwards. Tyler Johnson, 90th percentile breakout age at 19, was massively productive with Minnesota. His back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, 1,200 this past season, 25 touchdowns the last 2 years combined. Massive dominator rating. He just gets it done. Obviously, not tested at the combine. Him, kind of putting it off, saying that he's not ready. Him going back for his senior year, it's going to, knock him down some of those rankings. The massive unknown of where he's actually going to be drafted. It sounds like us, the Twitter Dynasty community is a lot higher on him as a whole than the actual NFL. So if he does become a mid to late day 3 pick, you have to adjust accordingly. This is a guy, in the words of Chris Collinsworth, this is the guy that you could end up drafting in the 3rd or 4th round because your basic home leagues aren't going to care about a guy like Tyler Johnson that you could hit on and be extremely excited on. He's a big inside slot receiver. I think he led the nation in slot receptions this year, if I'm not mistaken. Which we've seen in PPR leagues to be a very helpful position. Just see Cooper Kupp, playing that similar role. So I absolutely love Tyler Johnson.
All right, yeah, guy that I thought showed well, at least in statistics and everything, and then kind of screwed himself over in the process. But anyway, Matt, this is not a roundtable question. This is a just for you question. It's really because I want to know. So, how did Eric take Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay?
Surprisingly well. I think he had actually anticipated it beforehand. He had kind of seen Tom Brady moving on. So he actually wasn't that bummed out or salty or surprised. He didn't think he was going to Tampa Bay. I think he predicted him to go to the Titans in our free agency prediction episode. But, I think that the more tuned in New England, so I'm from New England, so I could say like the more tuned in fans aren't really surprised by this move. I think that in New England, we've kind of felt it for a while, kind of getting to this point. But I think like the casual Patriots fans were the ones who were really surprised by it. So he's actually pretty fine. He's ready to move on. I have no idea what in the world they're thinking with that quarterback situation right now, but let's just hope it's not Jarrett Stidham.
It's Brian Hoyer. They signed Brian Hoyer to have a chance to start.
I want it to be Jameis Winston so bad.
I want Cam Newton. I would love Cam Newton.
Jameis Winston would be the reason Belichick retires.
And remember, they got so many running backs. They might not even need a quarterback. Like they could just run the ball 38 times a game.
Damian Harris back there. It'll be fine.
Yeah, don't forget about Damian Harris.
Oh, of course not. Never forget about Damian Harris.
All right, Dan, you can go ahead and ask this. I think this one's going to be all Matt because I have like 3 tight ends that are next on my list to watch, and I have not watched them yet because this tight end class is just not inspiring.
Yeah. I will be 1,000% honest. I have done zero research on tight ends because I just don't care. There's not a tight end to me that gets me excited. There's not a Mike Gesicki, or
we're just gonna leave that one alone. All right.
There's not a guy that gets the needle moving, so to speak. So Matt,
I got a tight end that'll get you excited. There you go.
There's not OJ Howard, or like even a joke, like even a Dallas Goedert, or there's just nothing, or Mark Andrews. There's just nothing there for me to get excited on. So Matt, why don't you do your absolute best if you want to?
Yeah.
To get us pumped, kind of, for these tight ends.
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing you have to know about the tight end class this year is that, as the kids would say, it is not it. All right,
It is not lit.
it's not there. It's not happening. Okay, but that being said, so you need to keep that in mind, right? Just keep that in mind. And I'm gonna go through some of the big names because there are some names that you should have on your radar. Just don't expect them to, produce for your fantasy football team right away. But these are guys with some opportunity to do it. The highest rated guy we have in the draft guide is Harrison Bryant. Harrison Bryant out of FAU, Lane Kiffin's Florida Atlantic team. He's got good speed. He's an athletic pass catcher, decent route runner, good contested catch ability. Kind of your more athletic type mold, 6'5", 243. And so, that's our highest rated guy. We like his athleticism and its ability to translate to fantasy football. I really like Jared Pinkney out of Vanderbilt, but I think I like him as an NFL tight end more than I do a fantasy football tight end. He's just as good as pulling and hitting that pull block as he is catching the ball. He's got super consistent, reliable hands, but he doesn't really have the speed and athleticism to jump out of your seat.
Nobody plays like a monster.
Yeah, I know. He's a beast, and he really got lost in that Vanderbilt offense in 2019, just like everybody else. But 774 yards and 7 touchdowns in 2018, 50 receptions. So he's a really high upside guy. I'll probably try to get him late in drafts. Bryson Hopkins is the big name out of Purdue, 6'4", 245. There's a lot to like with this guy. I think he probably has maybe the highest ceiling in this draft class. For a tight end, he does fit that more athletic mold, really consistent hands, a large catch radius, strength, power guy. He was kind of hyped up going into this season as somebody who could be like a really exciting tight end prospect. And he had a good senior year, but there was nothing special about his tape. A guy that did pop out from 2019 is Thaddeus Moss. Of course, Randy Moss's son. He really popped out down the line there as LSU started using him in the college football playoff run. Athleticism, hands, strength, good blocker, but not really the type of high-end agility and upside that you're looking for. The last guy that I'll throw out there, I want to make sure he's on your radar, Adam Troutman out of the University of Dayton.
He's there.
Literally grainy tape. Like, if you watch his tape, it's literally grainy.
And it
looks
sounds like they're commentating it on like Twitch or something.
Well, it looks like somebody's on the sidelines with their cell phone, but not like your iPhone. It's like your friend who still has an Android, but from 2014.
It's the original Motorola flip phone, the first camera phone ever that they recorded his film with.
On the Razor, yeah. But yeah, it's grainy tape, but this man, I mean, he dominated FCS competition there. Good body control, good route runner, contested catch monster, very athletic, consistent hands. He showed the ability to be like a goal line type threat. Cole Kmet at Notre Dame is just a good, well-rounded NFL tight end. Last guy I'll throw out there, 2 more guys quickly that I'll throw out there. Hunter Bryant, I love Hunter Bryant, had a bad combine. He bulked up for it. It was a dumb move. But if you look at Hunter Bryant's tape, that's the tight end of Washington. He reminds me a lot of Evan Ingram, super athletic, good pass catcher. My boy rocks the number 1 and kicks out as a wide receiver half the time, despite being he really plays, I think, closer to 235, 240. And so that level of athleticism, versatility, I think is really attractive. The man can't block for shit. So just take that off the table with him. He's got to learn that and develop that. But he's definitely an athletic guy. And Albert Okwuegbunam out of Missouri.
Oh, you went for the whole freaking name, huh? Way to show off.
Yeah, I actually didn't want to say anything about him. I just wanted to point out that I could say his name. No, I'm just kidding. Super athletic testing. And we knew he was an athlete, but he's never really put the traits to production.
He's always freaking hurt.
Yeah, so it's hard to get. He's played 27 total games over 3 years
like
in Missouri.
It's
hard to get excited about him. So,
it's like,
yeah, that's what I got for tight ends, man. Don't bank on getting your franchise-changing fantasy football tight end out of this draft, and don't draft one before the 3rd round. But once you start getting into the 3rd or 4th rounds, there are guys that you can get, and there are gems. I mean, we ended up with putting 15 in the guide. That's how many we thought had the chance to be fantasy football relevant. Better chance that one of those 7 guys that I just mentioned are.
Yep. You hit the Basically you hit 4 of the 6 guys I think I've watched already, plus the 3 that are on my list to watch. So sounds like I'm pretty good. Out of the 5 I've watched, Hopkins, Pinckney, and Harrison Bryant are actually the 3 highest rated. And then Adam Troutman, I didn't have much of a use for Colby Parkinson. And then list 2 watch was Albert O. Just because the athleticism, I want to see what he put together on tape, because Dawson Knox last year was a guy that I thought could come in and produce, and he did a little bit. It was also hurt a lot in college. Cole Kmet and Hunter Bryant. So yeah, probably about 7 deep from what I've baselined and seen.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I have real no interest. I'll be interested to see if a guy like Chase Claypool makes the transition from receiver to tight end.
Chase Claypool is a tight end. Chase Claypool is a tight end.
If he does, though, man, I'm telling you that year 2, year 3, as soon as he gets there's a long transition, because to learn the blocking techniques. But the dude, it tested, I think, better than what most would. So if he does make that transition, he's someone that I don't mind sitting on him for a couple of years in a taxi squad. I'll get him in the 3rd or 4th round. I have no issue.
It's an important.
I forgot a guy.
No. Okay.
And if you haven't, there's a reason for this, and he might be my tight end 1.
Oh boy!
You got to look at his player profiler page for this, but Dalton Keene.
Oh, I don't heard of Dalton Keene. He's got the 101 mustache, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the mustache right there. Mustaches are magic. Dalton Keene.
He's got the reverse Hitler.
Yeah, he's missing the middle. Only has a few sides.
In the middle.
Also, actually, if you look at those graphs, he's actually pretty athletic. So,
I mean, best comparable to Kalai Waring, a 72nd percentile speed, burst. He's got 85th percentile. Agility scores. He hits.
I'm gonna give him a watch
on all levels.
I'm gonna give him a watch for the mustache alone.
He has questionable decision-making skills for his facial hair alone.
Oh.
Good thing he's not a quarterback.
He's destined to be a cop.
Oh, good lord!
All right, that's it for the rookie talk. Let's get to the last fun question and get the fuck out of here.
All right, got to round this one out. It's been a long show. Look, grocery stores are picked over. Everybody is struggling, maybe not financially, but what they can get their hands on. We've all been there. So, one last roundtable discussion. 3 favorite broke meals. I will start with you, Matt.
Does this include fast food, or if I can give you fast food for under $5, can it count?
Yes.
You can give me one fast food answer, and then
fast food.
That's perfect.
Want 2 make it home answers.
Okay, yep, that's good with me. Okay, so my fast food answer is Cookout. It's absolutely fantastic. It's local to the South. So do you have it in Missouri, Hopper?
No,
I don't think it gets that far out. It's mostly a Tennessee, North Carolina, Florida, Virginia kind of situation. We only have one in Maryland, and it's on the Eastern Shore, so it's really tragic for me. You can get what they call a tray for $5. You get 1 entree and 2 sides, except their sides are just entrees again. So you can get a cheeseburger with a side of quesadilla, with a side of I usually get 2 sides of quesadilla, but you can do sides of a chicken fingers meal. And then or a lot of people like the corn dog. You get all of that for $5, and for an extra $1, you get a giant shake. It's a probably more than 20-ounce shake that's so thick it's basically ice cream. They have 40 different flavors. Also for soda, they have Cheerwine, which I love. It's also kind of a Southern thing. So that's definitely my cheap meal. That was a common food for me in grad school, and it is exponentially better the closer you are to midnight. On either side of midnight. So that's my fast food one, and you can get all that under $6, including the shake. And then for like just stuff that I'm making at home. In college, we ate a lot of like stuffed crust DiGiorno pizza specifically. Love a good frozen pizza.
DiGiorno and bruschetta, my go-tos.
DiGiorno. It's not delivery now, but it is DiGiorno. But it's got to be the stuffed crust. I don't care what flavor it is. It's got to be the stuffed crust. And then, I mean, I appreciate the mac and cheese, the shells, the Kraft shell mac and cheese. That's the best one. So if I'm just like whipping up something nasty but cheap, I'm loading up the powdered cheese and the shells, and I'm going to town.
All right, Dan, go ahead. Your 3 favorite broke meals.
No, we're not that far off, Matt. So I like to go for some basic cheap ass fast food. Best year in happy hour, Arby's has ridiculously good happy hour. Dollar sliders. The sliders are, I mean, they're not obviously big by any means, but they're doable. Especially if you're, if you don't bring your own lunch, or if you're broke and you need something to do between 2 and 5, you can't do much worse. My 2 in-homes, I go for a very specific Tony's frozen pizza because it's $2.50 a pizza. DiGiorno is kind of on the more expensive end. I mean, maybe he's gotten a bit cheaper nowadays. I always felt like if I want to get a good frozen pizza, I'll get DiGiorno. If I want a cheap ass option that will at least fill me up, I'll get Tony's. And then the last one is mac and cheese hot dogs with barbecue sauce in there.
You pretty much took one of mine. I literally had hot dogs and mac and cheese tonight. That's my number 1 draft pick.
We had that. So 2 nights ago, we did, for the first time, I finally convinced Hurricane to let us do it. Hot dogs, mac and cheese, and chili. Sprinkle it all on top. Mix that shit together. I lived off of hot dogs and mac and cheese for the longest time. I fucking
it's so good. All right. So I already said it. My number 1 there was going to be hot dogs and mac and cheese. I literally had hot dogs and mac and cheese tonight because it is so good. It is everything. I'm not going to do fast food. I'm going to do 3 broke meals. And I've done all of these in the last week, not because they're broke meals, they're quarantine meals. Because we decided when we were going into quarantine that I was just going to have to do the shit that nobody else wanted to do. So we were going to live that way. So we've done hot dogs and mac and cheese one night. Multiple use ingredients, by the way.
Oh, obviously.
We did pigs in a blanket one night. So some crescent
I'm noticing
rolls,
a theme here.
A little bit of
and corn dogs. How many
hot dogs?
Hold on.
Hopper just went to Costco, bought out their entire hot dog section.
This was off of 1 pack of turkey dogs. Because the turkey dogs are the only hot dogs left in this freaking store. So we did hot dogs and mac and cheese. We got some pigs in a blanket one night. So some crescent rolls, a little bit of American cheese, wrap that up around the hot dog there. And then the third option I got to go with, and people don't think about this one, but you should, barbecue pulled pork, because you can get a rump roast for under $10.
Yeah.
And you can do like 7 different meals with that damn roast once you roast it and pull it. We have done, we did pulled pork tacos one night. We have done pulled pork sandwiches one night where I just like toasted up some bread and threw some provolone on there and tossed them in the oven. We still got pulled pork left. We're probably gonna do some pulled pork mac and cheese one night because we're making.
Oh, there you go.
Gotta make do with
good.
That's a good idea.
Gotta make good with what we can get in the store. So there's your 3 broke meals from me: pigs in a blanket, hot dogs, mac and cheese, and then 19 different meals out of 1 rump roast of pulled pork.
Uses his resources. Very good.
He's going the smart way. Like, he's going the way of, like, you're building your meals for the week. Me and Matt are like, I need something to eat now. Let's go get frozen pizza.
I'm over here like, how can I get a quesadilla and a chicken finger in my mouth at the same time?
Don't get me wrong. We're stacked on Jack's Pizza, and Bruschetta was on sale this week. Bruschetta is my number 2 to DiGiorno, by the way. But we were stacked on some Jack's Pizza, some Devour meals. Because those are fantastic. Like, I'm just make multiple meals out of what you could get at the store, though, is what I was trying to do because we were picked over.
That's smart.
We were being resourceful. I appreciate that.
So, all right, that's all we got for you. Matt, one more time for anybody that has decided to listen to this damn thing for 2.5 hours.
Fuck.
Where can they find you? Longest podcast in a long time.
It has been a long time. I'm on Twitter at the FF_educator. We are, my main website is dynastydraftroom.com. We do NFL draft and dynasty fantasy football 365 all year round. The podcast is really where things are at right now. Dynasty Draft Room, just search that in any podcast provider, whatever you're listening on, we're there. And we also are really kind of pushing out our YouTube page right now. I forgot to mention that earlier, but that has been huge with these draft seminar, the player profile series I was talking about. We have made an intentional effort to actually like use YouTube and cut up videos and do video cut ups. And, you know, we're up to 140 subscribers. We just started doing this like last month. So those are kind of taken off as draft season takes off. And you can, all those episodes I was talking about, the player profiles, you could see video versions of that on YouTube as well. So we're trying to do a little bit of everything with the draft, man. We like this stuff a little bit too much. And so I'm always happy to talk draft or you know, talk on Twitter or the podcast or really however I can. I can't get enough NFL draft.
Well, we certainly do appreciate you coming on. Good job on the YouTube, by the way. We've been quote unquote pushing YouTube, and by pushing YouTube, telling people to watch us there, and then not pushing YouTube at all and just live streaming everything, and then leaving it there after the fact. No cut downs, no anything. And that's been like 2 years going, and I think we're at 280 subscribers. So well done on getting up that hot far on YouTube.
You guys are buying
in a week.
into us for some fucking reason.
Yeah. Well, you tried. I mean, we didn't really try it, this whole YouTube thing. It's live stream and go.
You kind of have to, like, I do a little bit of social media for my job. You really have to try at YouTube. You can't kind of like it's hard to like half do YouTube. So
that's what we've done
tough.
Is we've just half-assed YouTube the entire time. We just half-ass everything, honestly.
But you know what? It's still
works.
a fantastic product. I keep coming back, so I'm sure everybody else does.
And we
as well.
certainly do appreciate you hanging out with us. Appreciate the time. Be sure to check out all of Matt's draft content. That's where you can get it. And I generally agree with him on most things that aren't J.K. Dobbins or Chad Kelly. So, you know, 8 out of 10 times he's going to be right, which is really good. So,
oh man, yeah, dude, this was fun. This is a good time.
Always is, man. Dan,
and watch out for us on your guys' show when we bring on for year 2 of rookies and alcohol. Whatever you guys want to call it. Because we got to do that.
Yeah, that was a good time. I forgot exactly what we did, but I remember that was like a wild episode.
You had us compare rookies to alcohol, and Dan didn't read the script.
No, I didn't get the script.
Right.
No, Dan didn't get the script.
Right. Yeah.
Which I'm assuming is going to happen this year.
And I didn't get all my readings in college. All right.
What's reading? How to read it. Yeah.
How to Dan read.
How do you have a full beer?
I got another one. I said during one of the questions I'm going to get another beer.
Yeah, do you even listen to him? Jeez.
No, he tunes me out a lot.
Huh? No, I'm just kidding.
Why is he here? Miss you guys.
Beerfield FF on Twitter, at Hot BFF for me, at 30 BFF for Dan. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.